Chapter 1534. There were many dangerous games in the amusement park that children were not allowed to play. The game equipment in the amusement park didn't depend on the age of the child, but the height of the child. Generally, thrilling games like the roller coaster were not allowed to participate in those who were under 1.4 meters tall. This was a matter of life and death, so naturally, they couldn't be careless. In front of every ride, there was a height measuring scale placed to stop children who were not tall enough to avoid accidents. For example, Xiao Yunzhu, Duanli, and Duanya's age, there weren't many games that they could play in the amusement park, and thrilling games were even more forbidden. Therefore, Yunjian's first stop was to bring Xiao Yunzhu and the other two to the merry-go-round. There were many people lining up to play the merry-go-round, especially since the Happy Island amusement park was a very popular large-scale amusement park. Rides like the merry-go-round were accessible to children of any age. In the amusement park, most of the people who came to play were adults who accompanied their children. Therefore, for a ride like the merry-go-round, which was accessible to children of any age, there were naturally many people lining up to play. There was a long line here. "Sister, there are so many people." Xiao Yunzhu pouted, pulled Yunjian's clothes and said. "N." Yunjian nodded lightly. The waiting area was full of people. It was not difficult to see that the amusement park's merry-go-round was quite popular. Yunjian and the others' luck was not particularly good. When they entered the amusement park, the first game they played was about half an hour in line before it was their turn. Seeing that it was their turn to play in the next round, Xiao Yunzhu waited for a long time. He stretched out his hand to move his limbs. There were too many people standing in line here. There were people standing in front and behind. Xiao Yunzhu stretched out his hand to move his limbs. Just as he stretched out his hand, he accidentally hit a boy who was about the same age as Xiao Yunzhu standing in front of him. Rather than hitting, it was more like accidentally touching the boy's cheek with his hand. "What are you doing?" The boy standing in front of him was from Z country. It seemed that he was impatient from waiting. Now that Xiao Yunzhu had accidentally touched his cheek, he was furious on the spot and turned his head to look at Xiao Yunzhu fiercely. There was a man and a woman beside the boy. It wasn't hard to tell that the man and woman standing beside the boy were his parents. The boy's father was an average-looking man with a belly bigger than a beer. Every time he breathed, one could clearly see his fat belly tremble. The boy's father should be in his 40s. The boy's mother was very young. She was only in her mid-20s. If one didn't take a closer look at the similarities between the boy and the woman, it would be hard to tell that the woman was only 25 or 26 years old, but she was already the mother of an 8-year-old boy. It was even harder to tell that this woman and this man in his 40s were husband and wife. Xiao Yunzhu was shocked by the boy's roar. Xiao Yunzhu realized that he had accidentally touched the boy's cheek. It was his fault. The teacher said that he had to apologize if he accidentally touched the boy. "I'm sorry, I accidentally touched you." Xiao Yunzhu hurriedly apologized to the boy. "What's the use of apologizing? Whose child are you? How dare you hurt my Didn't your mother teach you how to behave? Really, I don't even know if this wild child has any bacteria on his hands. It's so dirty." Before the boy could speak, the boy's mother, who was in her mid-20s, pushed Xiao Yunzhu away. She squatted down beside the boy and scolded him while wiping his face. While wiping the boy's face, the woman scolded, "Children nowadays only know how to apologize. Do they think that they are very polite?" Chapter 1535. As the woman scolded, she also called her son, which was the boy's nickname. The boy's nickname was and his name was Zhang Laifu. It was a very tacky name, but the woman said it smoothly. The woman's name was Fan Xian, and she was 25 years old. Fan Xian was Zhang Laifu's biological mother. She was quite good-looking, and there was nothing to say about her looks. When she was in high school, she was the school belle. Because Fan Xian was not good at her studies and was a gangster, after she had a few boyfriends, she was taken in by Zhang Laifu's father, who was a middle-aged man in his 40s. The lump of fat on his stomach was so big that it was about to fall off. At that time, Zhang Laifu's father, the man named Zhang Shan, was already married. Fan Xian became Zhang Shan's mistress when she was 16 years old. Zhang Shan was the kind of man who came from the countryside to the big city and gradually developed his business. When Fan Xian was 16 years old, he already had a business. After Fan Xian seduced Zhang Shan, she got pregnant in less than a year and secretly gave birth to the child. After Zhang Shan became rich, he divorced his first wife and married Fan Xian. Fan Xian successfully became the mistress. In addition, when Fan Xian walked out, she did not feel that she was a mistress at all, so she felt inferior. On the contrary, she felt that she was great and powerful, better than her peers. Classmates of her age were still starting their own businesses after marrying their husbands. But what about her? She married her husband. Although she was a little old and was already in her 40s, she not only had a car and a house, but she also had a business. When she was free, she could even take her and the child out to play. Fan Xian was proud of this. She even advised her best friend more than once that as a woman, she should find a man who was more than 10 years older than her, who had a car, a house, and a business. Who cared if he had a wife or not? She would date him first. Because in the eyes of her friends, Fan Xian felt that her life was the most fulfilling. After being a rich madam for so many years, Fan Xian had a habit of looking down on others. Therefore, when Xiao Yunzhu accidentally touched Zhang Laifu's face with his hand, Fan Xian felt that her son's face had been dirted by something dirty, and she started to shout. Fan Xian was still half squatting on the ground, scolding as she wiped her son's face. Halfway through, a beautiful hand grabbed Fan Xian's wrist and forcefully pulled her up from the ground. Fan Xian was suddenly grabbed and did not react for a moment. By the time Fan Xian realized what was going on, she was already looking at Yunjian's seemingly emotionless and icy face. "My brother accidentally bumped into your son. It's my brother's fault. My brother has already apologized. You pushed my brother just now, so you have to apologize too." Yunjian grabbed Fan Xian's wrist and said coldly. Xiao Yunzhu had accidentally slapped her face and apologized. Yunjian naturally wouldn't say anything. After all, Xiao Yunzhu had really touched her cheek. But just now, Fan Xian pushed Xiao Yunzhu away. If Yunjian hadn't stood behind Xiao Yunzhu and supported Xiao Yunzhu's little head would have hit the railing next to him. Oh my! Why should we apologize? What's wrong with me pushing him? He couldn't reject it, could he? Ha! Fan Xian's wrist was grabbed by Yunjian. After struggling twice to no avail, she glanced at Yunjian coldly, without any remorse for doing something wrong. Apologize. Yunjian didn't say anything else. She just repeated these two words, and then the strength of her hand increased slightly. Ah! It hurts. Let go of me. Fan Xian's wrist was grabbed by Yunjian and the bones creaked. She was frightened, so she quickly shouted. Let go of my wife's hand. Seeing this, Zhang Shan stood behind Fan Xian and shouted at Yunjian. Seeing that Yunjian seemed to be a martial artist and was quite powerful, Zhang Shan didn't dare to rush up. Apologize. Yunjian still repeated these two words. At the same time, Fan Xian's wrist made a cracking sound. I was wrong, I was wrong. I'm sorry, I was wrong. Fan Xian was frightened by the severe pain and quickly begged for mercy. This wasn't a big deal, and Yunjian didn't want to make a big deal out of it, so Yunjian's eyes darkened and she immediately let go. Mom! Zhang Laifu on the other side grabbed Fan Xian, then raised his eyes and glared at Xiao Yunzhu and Yunjian. Chapter 1536. At this moment, the entrance to the merry-go-round opened. After waiting for about half an hour, it was finally Yun Jian and the others' turn. Yao Lili and Lin Wan had gone to play other exciting games, so now only Yun Jian and Ce were with the four children. Xiao Yunju, Duanli, Duanya, and Su Li. As soon as the entrance to the merry-go-round opened, the unhappiness from before was thrown to the back of their minds. Fan Xian shook her wrist that was grabbed by Yun Jian. She was surprised. Why wasn't her hand hurt? And she didn't feel any pain at all? There wasn't even a trace of being pinched? Because the entrance to the merry-go-round was already open, Fan Xian didn't feel any pain on her wrist. So she quickly grabbed her son, Zhang Laifu, and called her husband, Zhang Shan, and ran to the entrance of the merry-go-round. No one saw Zhang Laifu fiercely glare at Xiao Yunju. His eyes were full of anger, as if he wanted to kill Xiao Yunju. The merry-go-round was quite fun. At least Xiao Yunju, Duanli, Duanya, and Su Li had a lot of fun. After the game ended, Su Li stretched her body and said to Xiao Yunju and the others happily, "It's great to be at an amusement park. It's the first time someone accompanied me to an amusement park. Dad has to deal with a lot of government affairs every day. Mom doesn't want to accompany me to the amusement park. In the past, it was only the attendants who accompanied me to the amusement park. Thank you." Su Li's eyes were full of emotion. At the same time, hidden in Su Li's eyes was an undetectable and unfathomable loneliness. "We'll play with you in the future." Xiao Yunju and the others blinked. They looked at Su Li with their innocent eyes and smiled at her. Really? Su Li looked up at Xiao Yunju and the others and asked with a trembling voice. "Of course it's real. Let's go play other games." Xiao Yunju and the others were ready to move. Then, they pulled Su Li to other places. "Let's go play the pirate ship. Sister will play the pirate ship with us." Yay. At this time, Xiao Yunju and Duanli seemed to have found a new goal. They pulled Yun Jian and shouted excitedly. The pirate ship was a more exciting game. Although the pirate ship did not sway too much, if you were to sit on the pirate ship, you would feel like your heart was about to be shaken out of your body. Especially when it swayed from side to side more and more violently, it felt like if a person was sitting on a pirate ship without a seatbelt and enhanced safety features, they would be thrown off. In the amusement park, you would find that the more dangerous the game, the more complicated the safety measures. Because the pirate ship was a very exciting game, there was a limit to the height of the players. The island's height. SSSSS. Is SSSSS. Xiao Yunju, Duanli, and Su Li wanted to experience the thrill of the pirate ship. Yun Jian had to let Duanya stand there and let Ce look after Duanya. Yun Jian accompanied Xiao Yunju, Duanli, and Su Li. Because the pirate ship was exciting and the children's height was limited, there weren't many people waiting in line to play the pirate ship. Yun Jian and the others waited for 5 minutes before they could go up. "It's you, huh?" Just as Yun Jian brought Xiao Yunju, Duanli, and Su Li onto the pirate ship, a groan came from behind. Yun Jian turned her head and saw Fan Xian, who had a small conflict with Yun Jian, holding her son Zhang Laifu's hand. "Hee, you dare to come here to play the pirate ship? Don't cry later and go home to your mother." Fan Xian's husband, Zhang Shan, was afraid of playing the pirate ship. Therefore, Fan Xian brought her son Zhang Laifu onto the pirate ship. Chapter 1537. Fan Xian obviously said that to Yun Jian on purpose. Her original intention was to anger Yun Jian. Yun Jian's hand just now hurt Fan Xian. Although Fan Xian didn't feel the pain at all after Yun Jian let go, Fan Xian was a vengeful person. "Get out of the way. Coward, I'll wait to see you cry later." "Huh. Get out of the way," Fan Xian said. She grabbed Zhang Laifu's hand and swaggered past Yun Jian to the pirate ship. Yun Jian ignored Fan Xian and Fan Xian's son. An ordinary pirate ship could seat 4 or 5 people in a row, but the pirate ship in the amusement park was bigger. It could seat 6 people neatly in a row. Yun Jian and the others had a total of 4 people. Yun Jian was afraid that Xiao Yunju, Duanli, and Su Li would accidentally fall from the pirate ship, so she didn't let them sit on the side. Yun Jian let Xiao Yunju and the other 2 sit in the middle, and then she sat on one side of the row. There were 6 people in a row. Yun Jian sat on the leftmost side, then Duanli, then Su Li, and finally Xiao Yunju. Xiao Yunju was braver, so he was the furthest away from Yun Jian. Yun Jian's row could seat 2 people. "Mom, I want to sit with them." "Humph. I want to see them cry." Zhang Laifu took the seat on the right side of Xiao Yunju and sat down. He looked at Xiao Yunju with a strange look, as if he wanted to kill Xiao Yunju. Fan Xian spoiled her son, so she naturally agreed to Zhang Laifu's words. So Zhang Laifu sat on the right side of Xiao Yunju, and Fan Xian sat on the rightmost side of Yun Jian's row. From left to right, Yun Jian's row was followed by Yun Jian, Duanli, Su Li, Xiao Yunju, Zhang Laifu, and Fan Xian. After the staff fastened everyone's seatbelts and reinforced the safety measures outside, they returned to the control room and the game officially began. "It's about to begin. It's about to begin." Xiao Yunju shouted. "TSK, what a coward." Fan Xian, who was sitting next to him, sneered. At this moment, the pirate ship game officially began. The pirate ship began to sway slowly. Xiao Yunju, Duanli, and Su Li were not afraid at all. Zhang Laifu's palms were sweating, but for the sake of his face, he forced himself to stay calm. Fan Xian was already screaming from being swayed. Yun Jian just put her hand on the armrest and let the wind blow her hair and clothes. She didn't know what fear was at all. Just as the pirate ship swaying was at its peak and was strong enough to fling someone out, the foolish Zhang Laifu suddenly shouted at Yunju, "Brother Yunju! Go to hell! You just bullied my mother! Go to hell!" As he said that, Zhang Laifu grabbed the seatbelt of Xiao Yunju's seat and unfastened the seatbelt on Xiao Yunju's body. Zhang Laifu had already planned to do so. Once the seatbelt was unfastened, the other safety measure was not enough to bind Xiao Yunju because Xiao Yunju was too thin. Especially at this moment, the pirate ship was flying to the highest point and was about to be thrown to the other side. Suddenly hearing Zhang Laifu's voice, the surrounding people looked over. However, at this moment, the pirate ship swayed down. Xiao Yunju flew out of the pirate ship because he didn't have a seatbelt. "Oh my God! Something happened! Oh my God!" Someone in the distance saw this scene and shouted in shock. "He fell from a height of more than 10 meters. This boy will definitely die." At this moment, whether it was the people sitting on the pirate ship, the people standing on the ground waiting for the next batch of people to play the pirate ship, or the people passing by the pirate ship game, they all exclaimed in shock. Intuition told everyone present that Xiao Yunju, the child who was thrown out, was done for. Dead for sure. Dead for sure. However, at this moment, whether it was Fan Xian, Zhang Laifu, and the others sitting on the pirate ship, or everyone standing on the ground, they all saw a horrifying scene. They saw that immediately after Xiao Yunju was thrown out, Yun Jian unfastened her seatbelt with one hand and pounced on the trajectory of Xiao Yunju. What is she doing? Is she courting death? Everyone in the surroundings was boiling with fear. For a moment, everyone was trembling with fear. Chapter 1538. The pirate ship swayed left and right, using the motion of the ship's body in the game to sway to the highest point. Therefore, when the pirate ship swayed to the highest point and Zhang Laifu unbuckled Xiao Yunju's seatbelt, Xiao Yunju was like a wild goose whose wings were suddenly broken. he fell from a height of more than 10 meters. This scene shocked the people around, but it was understandable. After all, Xiao Yunju was thrown from a height of more than 10 meters. If his head hit the ground first, his head would be smashed in half by the impact. It was not impossible for the blood in his brain to spurt out. If his brain was smashed in half, how could a fragile child survive? Yun Jian sat in the seat furthest away from Xiao Yunju. She did not expect Zhang Laifu to be so cruel to Xiao Yunju. How could a child be so vicious? Because Su Li and Duanli were in the middle, Yun Jian, who was sitting next to them, did not notice what Zhang Laifu had done to Xiao Yunju. However, Yun Jian reacted immediately. She did not even have time to think. She unbuckled her seatbelt and pounced toward the place where Xiao Yunju was thrown. Everyone present was scared out of their wits by Yun Jian's actions. The staff was so scared that they quickly exclaimed to each other to turn off the pirate ship's operating switch. Quick, turn off the pirate ship's operating switch. At this time, everyone sitting on the pirate ship, including the people standing on the ground, looked up at the sky. Yun Jian did not even think about it. She unbuckled her seatbelt and jumped out of another strengthened seatbelt with her slender body. She pounced toward Xiao Yunju. In the sky directly in front, Yun Jian quickly stood on the pirate ship. Then, she kicked her legs violently and jumped over Xiao Yunju. Xiao Yunju was thrown out. Yun Jian's kick caught up with Xiao Yunju's speed. She first grabbed Xiao Yunju with one hand, and then the two fell to the ground together with the force. There were many people standing around. There were men and women, young and old, and people from all countries. At this moment, everyone's hearts were tightly clenched. It fell. Just as Yun Jian grabbed Xiao Yunju and the two fell to the ground from a height of more than 10 meters, Yun Jian and Xiao Yunju suddenly landed beside a large railing machine that lifted the pirate ship. Here's the chance. Yun Jian's eyes flashed. In the next moment, she reached out and grabbed the large railing that lifted the pirate ship at a speed that no one could see with their naked eyes. Yun Jian held Xiao Yunju with one hand. She grabbed the large railing and used the large railing to spin 360 degrees around the large railing with Xiao Yunju. Then, she used the large railing to slow down the momentum. Her body was as light as a feather as she landed easily in the last few meters. This extremely complicated move was completed in just 3 seconds by Yun Jian. 3 seconds later, Yun Jian had safely landed with Xiao Yunju. A series of events happened in these 3 seconds. In the eyes of the surrounding people, it was just Yun Jian grabbing Xiao Yunju and using the large railing to slow down the momentum. Then, she jumped and landed smoothly. Falling from the pirate ship, more than 10 meters in the air. Yun Jian saved Xiao Yunju and landed smoothly without any injuries. This scene shocked the surrounding people so much that they could not describe it with words. In the next moment, the surrounding people exclaimed one after another. "Oh my God! This little girl is really amazing. Is this a show of Superman saving the world? Oh my God, am I seeing things? This can't be real." Compared to the people of various countries who suddenly saw Yun Jian's shocking performance, on the pirate ship that had been forcefully docked, Fan Xian and Zhang Laifu, who said that Yun Jian would be so scared that she would call for her mother on the pirate ship, were completely shocked. Their faces were pale and bloodless. She was actually so amazing. How was this possible? A person was thrown out of the pirate ship so violently. How could the other person catch up with the person who was thrown out? Not only that, she even saved the other person and landed safely. Chapter 1539. Wow! Superman! Little girl, you're the best. That's amazing. Could it be that the amusement park deliberately arranged that scene? That was simply too amazing. Too amazing. The surrounding people exclaimed in amazement in their own country's language. At this moment, everyone was applauding and cheering for Yunjian's actions. It was obvious that Yunjian's actions had exceeded everyone's understanding of a little girl. She was just a teenage girl. If she hadn't deliberately practiced this kind of performance, how could she have done such a frightening action? In that scene, if Yunjian's performance had been slightly off, she and Xiao Yunzhu would have been dead without a doubt. Therefore, when they saw this scene, the surrounding people cheered and screamed. Everyone clapped and applauded. Everyone's eyes, without exception, fell on Yunjian's body. Their eyes fell on this legendary girl. The pirate ship had completely stopped, and Yunjian was standing in front of the pirate ship. There were railings all around to prevent the tourists from being accidentally injured while the pirate ship game was running. Just when everyone's eyes were on Yunjian, they saw Ce using his height advantage to step on the railing and easily jump in. Ce's hand was still holding onto Duanya's collar. Poor Duanya's collar was grabbed by Ce and she swayed closer to Yunjian. Ce jumped over the railing and entered the pirate ship game facility. He didn't care about the staff's shouts to stop him from jumping over the railing and directly walked towards Yunjian. Poor Duanya was being held by Ce, but she blinked her eyes and looked pitiful to the onlookers. Although Xiao Yunzhu was brave, he was still frightened by the dangerous situation just now. When Yunjian saw Ce walking over, she pulled Xiao Yunzhu towards Ce. "Keep an eye on my brother." Yunjian's eyes flashed with a sharp killing intent as she said this very calmly. It was as natural as eating and drinking. Ce understood Yunjian. He pulled Xiao Yunzhu over. Everyone looked at Yunjian as if they were looking at their idol. Seeing Yunjian turn around and walk towards the pirate ship, everyone was surprised. Fan Xian, who was sitting on the pirate ship, had already unfastened her and her son Zhang Laifu's seatbelt. Seeing Yunjian walking over, Fan Xian panicked. Fan Xian didn't know what her son had just done. They thought that Yunjian was coming over to unfasten Duanli and Su Li's seatbelts. Seeing Yunjian's calm expression, as if nothing had happened, Fan Xian panicked. Yunjian suddenly glanced over, making Fan Xian speechless. Yunjian raised her hand and unfastened Duanli and Su Li's seatbelts. She then let them get off the pirate ship by themselves. Fan Xian heaved a sigh of relief, thinking that Yunjian was going to follow Duanli and Su Li down the pirate ship. Yunjian suddenly grabbed Zhang Laifu. She didn't even think about it and directly threw Zhang Laifu off the pirate ship that was more than 2 meters high. Seeing this scene, everyone's eyes widened. Fan Xian screamed even more exaggeratedly, "Ah! Fu, Before Fan Xian could finish screaming, Zhang Laifu was thrown off the pirate ship by Yunjian. He hit the ground and cried out in pain. Before Fan Xian could react, Yunjian had already followed up. In the next second, she stepped on Zhang Laifu's abdomen, who was rolling and screaming in pain. Chapter 1540. Why would she lay her hands on an 8-year-old child for no reason? Seeing Yunjian throw Zhang Laifu off the pirate ship, the surrounding people were dumbfounded. Zhang Laifu was a fat boy, and it wasn't hard to tell that his family background was quite good. Otherwise, he wouldn't have eaten so much. Being thrown off the pirate ship by Yunjian, even if Zhang Laifu was fat, his entire body would definitely be in pain from the fall. In fact, Zhang Laifu's feet had landed on the ground. Now that he had been heavily smashed, a clear "kacha" sound could be heard when Zhang Laifu's legs hit the ground. The child's body was thin and weak to begin with, so when Zhang Laifu's legs hit the ground, a clear "kacha" sound could be heard. Zhang Laifu's legs were fractured. At this moment, Yunjian's foot was ruthlessly stepping on Zhang Laifu's abdomen. No matter how the surrounding people who didn't know the situation looked at it, they felt that Yunjian had gone overboard. What was wrong with her? How could she be so ruthless to an innocent little boy? Many of the surrounding people were foreigners, so naturally, they couldn't understand Yunjian's words. As foreigners, they could only look at Yunjian's actions and guess Yunjian's actions. Therefore, when Yunjian stomped Zhang Laifu under her foot, the crowd went into a frenzy again. Oh my God! This little girl is too much. How could she hit a child so recklessly? Hurry up and stop her. Go stop her. The surrounding group of foreigners were stunned. When they realized that Yunjian was hitting a child, they instantly felt disgusted with Yunjian. A few of the more righteous foreigners even wanted to step forward to stop Yunjian. Just as the more righteous foreigners were about to walk over to Yunjian and try to stop Yunjian from stepping on Zhang Laifu's abdomen, Ce suddenly pulled out a silver pistol from his trouser pocket and fired 2 shots into the air. His handsome face was extremely cold. What he said made the righteous foreigners, who did not know the truth, shrink back. Ce's thin lips moved slightly, his icy demeanor causing everyone present to retreat with a shriek. Anyone who dares to take a step forward will die. Ce was obviously protecting Yunjian. Seeing Ce pull out a pistol, the surrounding people were frightened and retreated, screaming and fleeing. Fan Xian took a while to react. She saw her son Zhang Laifu being thrown off the pirate ship by Yunjian. Zhang Laifu was struggling on the ground. She screamed and rushed over. Ah! 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 Fu! Ah! Go to hell! How dare you do this to my son, go to hell! As Zhang Laifu's father, Zhang Shan wanted to run over with a shriek when he saw his precious son being stepped on by Yunjian, but he stopped when he saw Ce whipping out a gun. Gun! He have gun! Father's father! Father son son! Father son! How dare you do this to son? Ah! Ah! Fan Xian rushed to Yunjian's side. She ran to Yunjian and grabbed Yunjian's foot. She tried to lift Yunjian's foot from Zhang Laifu's abdomen. Fan Xian grabbed Yunjian's foot but found that Yunjian's foot was as hard as iron. She tried her best but couldn't move Yunjian's foot. At this moment, Yunjian lowered her head. She pulled Fan Xian up with a cold face and threw her to the side. Fan Xian was smashed to the ground. Before she could stand up, she felt herself being pulled up. When Fan Xian reacted, she saw Yunjian's face. Just as Fan Xian was about to say something, Yunjian suddenly slapped Fan Xian. Fan Xian didn't even have a chance to speak after being slapped one after another. Yunjian only stopped when Fan Xian was on the verge of death. She looked at her coldly and said. Chapter 1541. Yunjian's words, coupled with her words and actions, made Fan Xian feel the fear of death. Ah! 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 Fan Xian had been slapped by Yunjian like a crazy woman at this moment. Her hair was messy, and she was lying on the ground. Stop hitting him. Stop hitting him. I'm an employee of the Pleasure Island Amusement Park's monitoring room. I'm sorry about the accident just now. I've found the reason why the little boy was thrown out of the pirate ship. This isn't a technical error. It's the boy lying on the ground who unfastened the seatbelt of the little boy just now when the pirate ship rose to the highest point, causing the little boy to fly out and almost cause an accident. Our Pleasure Island Amusement Park's equipment will not have any technical errors, so all the responsibilities must be borne by him and his parents. We have contacted the police, please wait for a while. Just when the scene was chaotic to a certain extent, a staff member in uniform came over. In order to emphasize that the accident just now was not caused by a technical error in the amusement facilities of his Pleasure Island Amusement Park, he emphasized that Zhang Laifu deliberately persecuted Xiao Yunzhu just now. The staff spoke in English. Most of the people standing around understood English. At this moment, when they suddenly heard what the staff said, they were completely shocked. The video surveillance in the monitoring room was, just now, Xiao Yunzhu could be thrown out, not because the safety facilities of the pirate ship were not in place, but Zhang Lifu did it deliberately. Oh my God! This can't be true. The little boy just had an accident, and it was done by this innocent-looking boy. Oh my God! If this is really done by this boy, then his heart is too bad. This kind of person is the scum of society. He should die. He doesn't learn good things at such a young age, and only knows how to harm people. That little girl did a good job. She did a good job. They should be kicked to death. After listening to the staff's words, the people around immediately turned to Yunjian's side. First of all, the staff of the amusement park would definitely be involved in the ending of this matter. Although Zhang Lifu was young, premeditated murder was no small matter. What's more, if they didn't deal with it properly, if word got out that the amusement park's gaming equipment was faulty and someone almost fell to his death, the amusement park wouldn't take the blame. After such a thing happened, the police came quickly. Yunjian didn't follow them to the police station. Su Li was the princess of H country. As long as Yunjian didn't commit murder or arson, the police wouldn't take Yunjian to the police station in H country. Zhang Lifu, Fan Xian, and Zhang Shan were not so simple. Before Zhang Shan, Zhang Lifu, and Fan Xian were taken away, Yunjian had already knocked them out. Only then did Zhang Shan dare to come forward. He hugged his son tightly and shouted. At this moment, the phone in Zhang Shan's pocket suddenly vibrated. He quickly put down his son, Zhang Lifu, picked up the phone, and opened the message. He saw that his bank account originally had a balance of tens of millions, but at this moment, the text message was sent. The remaining amount instantly became 0. Zhang Shan, who saw this text message, almost fainted. This text message was followed by a message: your wife and son provoked someone who shouldn't be provoked. I'll let you live and take all your wealth. Zhang Shan, who saw this text message, fainted directly. Chapter 1542. After Zhang Shan fainted, Zhang Shan, Zhang Lifu, and Fan Xian were taken to the police station in Country H. The Pleasure Island amusement park had blacklisted Zhang Shan and his family. Even the Pleasure Island amusement park, which was located all over the world, had blacklisted Zhang Shan and his family. This meant that Zhang Shan and his family would never be able to visit the Pleasure Island amusement park again. Watching Zhang Shan and his family being taken away, Ce pressed the last button on his phone with his long fingers and put it down. His thin lips curled up slightly under his handsome face. Yunjian had already comforted Xiao Yunzhu. Xiao Yunzhu was only frightened at the beginning. After he regained his composure, Xiao Yunzhu patted his chest and vowed to Yunjian. Sister, I'm not afraid. I wasn't scared just now. I'm a man. Seeing that Xiao Yunzhu wasn't frightened, Yunjian was relieved. Just as she stood up, she saw Ce put down his phone. Yunjian was suspicious. She raised her soft hand to take the phone that Ce was holding. Yunjian reached out her hand to take the phone. Ce wasn't afraid of his privacy or secrets being seen by Yunjian. He directly handed the phone to her, but he pinched Yunjian's hand in return. To Ce, she could look at things like the phone as she pleased. But he needed something substantial in return. For example, Yunjian checked Ce's phone twice and found that Ce had actually used his phone to hack Zhang Shan's bank card. He had also sent a message to Zhang Shan. Yunjian checked Ce's phone. She suddenly raised her head and asked Ce softly with a hint of surprise in her voice. You're a hacker? Ce replied to Yunjian and stuck close to Yunjian. Both of them held the hands of Xiao Yunzhu and the other three children respectively while Ce pressed his face to Yunjian's ear without the slightest hint of embarrassment. Why didn't I know you're a hacker before? Yunjian read the content on Ce's phone seriously before turning her head to look at him. Turning to the side, Yun Jian's cheeks were almost touching with Siyi's lowered head. She turned back quickly and asked. Even Yun Jian nearly had the urge to cover her mouth when she asked the question. Since when did she sound like a spoiled child? She was becoming more and more playful when she spoke to Ci. You didn't know it before, but you know it now. There's still a lot of things about me that Xiao Jian needs to know. Do you want to know and see? Ci suddenly pressed his lips to Yun Jian's ear and spoke softly, his soft voice brushing against the edge of Yun Jian's ear. Yun Jian nearly shuddered from Ci's soft voice. She quickly pushed the playful Ci away and led Xiao Yunju, the other 3 children, and Su Li out of the pirate ship game. Ci's lips curled into a faint smile on his handsome face. It was a smile that he would only show in front of his most beloved Xiao Jian. Watching Yun Jian pull Xiao Yunju and the other 3 children out, a sinister image suddenly appeared in Ci's mind. He wanted to push his Xiao Jian onto the bed and make her give birth to a bunch of children for him. Just like how Yun Jian was holding Xiao Yunju and the other 3 children's hands now, the positions of Xiao Yunju and the others would be his and Xiao Jian's children in the future, for was not enough. 10. 20. Chapter 1543. Ci did not stay for long as Yun Jian had already left. He believed that it would not be long before a baby Ci would be stuffed into Xiao Jian's stomach. It was time for his heir to be born. If Yun Jian knew what Ci was thinking, she would probably glare at him before lowering her head. Yao Lili and Lin Wan did not know what happened on the pirate ship. Pleasure Island Amusement Park was indeed a world-famous amusement park. After Yao Lili and Lin Wan walked around the amusement park, they almost couldn't hold any more food and dolls in their hands. Lin Wan had a lot of fun today. Most importantly, she was actually having fun with the superstar, Yao Lili. God! This was something that Lin Wan did not even dare to imagine in the past. After meeting up with Yun Jian, the group returned to Country H's palace. Yun Jian and Lin Wan came out to play during the weekend. They still had to go back to school on Monday. Therefore, both of them planned to fly back home after dinner in Country H's palace. You're leaving? Why? Did we not treat you well? Richard asked loudly in shock when he heard that Yun Jian was leaving. Yun Jian was leaving? She was leaving so soon. How was he going to keep her in Country H? Once Richard remembered that his mother, Marcia, had promised to help him keep Yun Jian, he turned to look at Marcia. Queen Marcia nodded at Richard, hinting for him not to be anxious. Richard finally calmed down. Everyone was dining at the long table with Queen Marcia sitting at the most prestigious seat. Hearing Richard's exclamation, Yun Jian's eyes dimmed, but she ignored him. Yao Lili answered Richard's question for Yun Jian. They still have to go back to school. Yao Lili's words made Richard's eyes darken. Richard almost said to Yun Jian, Country H is so good, why do you have to come back to Country Z? But after thinking about it, Richard still held back. What happened to Lu Yen was my fault. Please don't take it to heart. Stay for a few more days. Queen Marcia looked at Yun Jian and said softly. Even when Marcia was apologizing, her words were full of nobility. It was obvious that she was the queen and everyone sitting below her was inferior to her. I'll return to Z country in a moment. Hearing Marcia's apology, Yun Jian did not compromise. She would never change her mind because of anyone. Isn't our Country H good? Why are you in such a hurry? Queen Marcia asked again. When she said this, Marcia raised her voice. When Marcia said this, she acted as if she did not hear it at all. Yun Jian and Lin Wan returned to Z country because they had to go back to school. Queen, they really have to go back to school. Even Yao Lili felt helpless about Marcia's dictatorship, so Yao Lili spoke again. Since everyone is sitting here, I'll just say it directly. Yun Jian, I misunderstood you before. Now the misunderstanding has been cleared. If you stay, I'll let you become the future queen of country H. 3 days later, you'll marry my son Richard. Marcia's words were quite dictatorial. She did not even consider whether Yunjian would agree with her decision or not. Hearing Marcia's words, Ce looked up with his deep eyes that were as sharp as an eagle's. His eyes instantly reflected a strong murderous intent. Just before Ce was about to speak, Yunjian grabbed Ce's hand and signaled him to keep quiet. Then Yunjian stood up by herself. I think I must have made you misunderstand something. What queen of country H? I don't care. It seems that there's no need to continue this meal. Then I'll never see you again. When Yunjian said this, she signaled them to stand up. Lin Wan was confused for a moment. What was going on? However, Lin Wan and the others stood up cooperatively. How dare you? Just when they were about to turn around and walk out of the door, Marcia slammed the table and stood up. I'll give you the position of the future queen of country H, such a great honor, and you don't want it? To be honest, I don't like a woman like you. If it weren't for my who likes you so much, I wouldn't even accept an uneducated woman like you in my country. There was a strong sense of charity in Marcia's words. Chapter 1544. Marcia felt that what she said was like an imperial edict and Yunjian should accept what she said. But in fact, even Yao Lily could not accept Marcia's tone. That was why Yao Lily told Yunjian that although Suli was Marcia's child, Suli was completely different from her own mother. Suli was a good girl, unlike Marcia, who was dictatorial and tyrannical. Marcia's words could not be accepted by anyone. What was more ridiculous was that Marcia felt that what she said was like an imperial edict and there was nothing wrong with it. I don't care about the position of the Queen of H country. This position is a treasure to you, but to me, it is a useless position. Only a useless person can sit on this position forever. Only a woman without her own power and influence would guard her position as queen like a treasure. Needless to say, if H country were to be destroyed one day, then Marcia, the queen, would be even worse than a commoner. Because she only knew how to rely on men. She only knew how to please men in exchange for this position. To be honest, Marcia had nothing now that she had lost the position of queen. How dare you? Marcia was so angry by Yunjian's words that she slammed the table again. Yunjian actually said that she was a useless person. She actually said that the position she was sitting on was a useless one. My is the prince of H country and will be the king of H country in the future. How dare you say something like that? Fine. You don't deserve to be the future queen of H country. But don't even think about leaving today. Even if I want you to be my concubine, I want you to stay. Guards. Surround them for me. You can't escape today. Marcia slammed the table and roared. At this moment, she even threw away her years of self-restraint. Her carefully dressed face was now extremely ferocious. Marcia originally wanted Yunjian to be her son Richard's woman and the future queen of H country. But now, Marcia had changed her mind. A woman like Yunjian was not worthy of her son, Richard. However, her son, Richard, was already 25 years old. Until now, he had not taken a liking to any woman and had not given birth to an heir. It was rare that Richard liked Yunjian, so Marcia wanted to force Yunjian to stay and let Yunjian give birth to Richard's child. She wanted to stabilize her son's position in country H first. After a long time, he would arrange a wife for Richard, and then let Richard's first wife give birth to an heir for him. At that time, Yunjian could die wherever she wanted, and she wouldn't care at all. Marcia's wishful thinking was very good. She also believed that the royal army of H country could stop Yunjian. Moreover, Marcia felt that Yunjian should be touched to death by giving Yunjian the status of a concubine. As soon as Marcia finished her words, a large group of guards rushed in from outside the palace. These guards were holding submachine guns and pistols in their hands. The scene was so overwhelming that it was frightening. Marcia raised her head high confidently. Yun Jian grabbed Siyi's hand and comforted him so that he wouldn't take action. Otherwise, Country H would become history if Siyi took action. Country H was innocent. The only one at fault was Marcia. Yun Jian glanced around and smiled coldly. She looked into Marcia's eyes and said, "Do you think these people can stop me? Why not? Could it be that you're a god? The royal army of H country is not something you can defeat." Marcia said confidently. The royal army of H country was a powerful army that was famous all over the world. Marcia didn't believe that Yun Jian could escape. However, as soon as Marcia finished her words, Richard also felt that his mother's actions would definitely make Yun Jian stay. Yun Jian smiled contemptuously. Her smile was sweet, but it made everyone's hair stand on end. The royal army of H country is indeed powerful. They have even eliminated an international criminal organization, Yun Jian said calmly. Marcia raised her head confidently when she heard that Yun Jian knew about the power of the royal army of H country. However, before Yun Jian finished her words, Yun Jian's words were heard again. Her words resounded throughout the whole place. Marcia, Richard, and all the soldiers who belonged to the royal army of H country were shocked. Yun Jian's clear, loud, arrogant, and unabashed words resounded throughout the place. Chapter 1545. Yun Jian's clear voice echoed in every corner of the venue. Everyone was stunned when they heard Yun Jian's voice. Apart from Ce, no one could react in time. Ce stood next to Yun Jian. If Yun Jian was not holding his hand, he would have attacked long ago. Why would he wait until now? However, Ce did not attack immediately because Yun Jian was holding his hand and he could feel the warmth of her tender hand. Judging from today's situation, he would definitely let Prince Richard and Queen Marcia know how close death was to them. Ce's expression was nonchalant, but those around them who knew what Yun Jian was referring to caught up with her swiftly. Yun Jian just now, what did she say? She said that Queen Marcia's country H royal army was powerful, but slaying God's Kosha mercenaries would not be weaker than Queen Marcia's country H royal army. She even said that there was no such thing in this world as an army that could stop slaying God. Slaying God? Kosha mercenaries? What? Slaying God? Could the slaying God that Yun Jian mentioned be the #1 secret agent on the international secret agent ranking? The king of secret agents that no one could surpass? The one who struck fear in people's hearts and made countless international businessmen and politicians flinch. Slaying God? Queen Marcia, Richard, and everyone from country H's royal army were horrified when they heard Yun Jian's words. Yao Lily's face darkened as well. Yao Lily only knew about Yun Jian's ability and the fact that Yun Jian could come and go as she pleased in an Han organization. Hence, she assumed that Yun Jian was comparable to the 4 leaders of an Han organization. However, she had never expected Yun Jian to be the #1 secret agent on the international secret agent ranking. No wonder, no wonder. No wonder you're called SS. You're the #1 secret agent on the international secret agent ranking, slaying God. Yao Lily looked at Yun Jian in horror. Yao Lily had never asked about Yun Jian's identity before, but that didn't mean she wasn't curious. However, Yao Lily knew that the less he knew about this, the better. Today, after hearing Yun Jian's question that had puzzled her for many years, Yao Lily was really shocked. It turned out that the person who had saved her back then was slaying God, the #1 on the international secret agent ranking. Queen Marcia and Richard were still in shock. The two of them stood there stupidly, unable to react for a long time. It was not until Yao Lily's exclamation that Marcia and Richard realized what was going on. Naturally, Marcia and Richard knew what slaying God, the #1 on the international secret agent ranking, represented. When Marcia and Richard heard what Yun Jian said, they were completely stunned. It was only until they heard Yao Lily's voice that both of them snapped out of their shock. When Marcia heard Yun Jian calling herself Slaying God, the number one on the international secret agent ranking, she was about to retort in a cold tone when she heard Yao Lily's voice. Yao Lily had addressed Yun Jian as SS from the beginning. That was true. In the beginning, no one knew what Yao Lily meant when he called Yun Jian SS. However, after hearing Yun Jian's self-address and recalling that Yao Lily had always addressed Yun Jian as SS, Slaying God? She was SS. You. Are you really? Are you really Slaying God, the number one on the international secret agent ranking? The current boss of Wuxia mercenaries? The queen's noble demeanor crumbled again and again. Her pupils constricted as she stared at Yun Jian and shrieked in shock. Yun Jian, the woman that her son Richard had his eyes on, was actually Slaying God, the number one on the international secret agent ranking? The king of secret agents who terrorized the world? Queen Marcia had just finished asking Yun Jian when she saw Yun Jian taking 2 steps toward her. Marcia's heart skipped a beat when she saw that. She was so shocked that her face froze. In the next second, Yun Jian took 2 slow steps toward Marcia. She smirked and spoke in a cold voice. Marcia was so shocked that the crown on her head fell off. Chapter 1546. Slaying God, the number one on the international secret agent ranking, was a world-class existence. Not only that, she was also the boss of the Wuxia mercenaries. The Wuxia mercenaries alone were comparable to the country H's royal army. No. The Wuxia mercenaries were not on the same level as the country H's royal army. The Wuxia mercenaries were many times more powerful than the country H's royal army. In other words, if the Wuxia mercenaries wanted to, they could even destroy a country. At the very least, the Wuxia mercenaries could fight against the country H's forces. Marcia's face darkened completely. Especially after hearing what Yun Jian said, Marcia was even more terrified. The manners of a queen did not exist in Marcia's mind at all. Marcia's face turned pale. Fortunately, Lin Wan was not around. Otherwise, she would have been scared out of her wits and it would be difficult for Yun Jian to explain. Even if you're the number one on the international secret agent ranking, Slaying God, so what? Don't forget that your brother and sister are still here. The country H's royal army may not be able to trap you, but don't forget that your brother and sister won't be able to escape death either. Marcia was so frightened by what Yun Jian said that the crown on her head fell off. She quickly squatted on the ground to pick it up and put it back on. From the corner of her eye, she saw Xiao Yunzhu and the rest. Therefore, Marcia used this to threaten Yun Jian. Of course, the moment Marcia heard Yun Jian say that she was Slaying God, she was completely terrified. The number one on the international secret agent ranking, Slaying God. She did not dare to let Yun Jian stay. Unless Marcia did not want to live anymore. However, based on what Yun Jian said, it seemed that Yun Jian was not going to let her go. Marcia trembled violently. However, as the queen of country H, she forced herself to calm down. Compared to Marcia's reaction, Richard looked at Yun Jian with infatuation and despair. She was Slaying God, the number one on the international secret agent ranking. Did this mean that there was no hope for him? What Marcia said sounded right to the people around her. It was true that Slaying God was powerful and no one dared to refute that statement. However, Yun Jian now had a family to feed. She was not alone. She had brought Xiao Yunzhu and the other 2 with her. As Slaying God, the top secret agent in the international ranking, it was only natural that she could escape from the guns of country H's royal army easily. However, things were different now. She, Yun Jian, was no longer alone. She even brought along Xiao Yunzhu and the other 2. It wasn't difficult for her to escape alone, but what if she brought along Xiao Yunzhu and the other 2? Marcia was full of confidence this time. She could not afford to offend Slaying God. Then, threatened slaying God. Slaying God would definitely compromise after being threatened. At that time, she would ask Yun Jian to bring Xiao Yunzhu and the others away quickly. Marcia's only thought was to send slaying God away. She did not want to create a disaster because of her actions. However, just as Marcia finished her sentence, Yao Lily continued. What Yao Lily said made Marcia's expression change drastically. SS once brought dozens of people to escape the attack of hundreds of gold medal assassins. Let alone bringing 3 to 4 people to escape from Country H's Royal Army's attack. I know her. With her ability, even if she managed to escape safely with her people, she still has the ability to wipe out Country H's Royal Army. Yao Lily was very firm when she said this because she had seen Yun Jian's ability before. What are you talking about? How is this possible? Yao Lily's words made Marcia's jaw drop. Just when Marcia was so shocked that she could no longer express the fear in her heart with panic, Ce, who was walking toward her from a distance, walked toward her. Ce, who stood not far away, strode forward and took 2 steps toward Yun Jian, extending his arm to pull her into his embrace. Ce pulled Yun Jian into his embrace in front of everyone. His thin lips curled as he spoke coldly. His words were directed at Marcia and Richard. 100 missiles from an Han organization have locked onto Country H's royal palace. You will pay for your foolish actions. Chapter 1547. With Ce's attack, how could Country H survive? At this moment, the words in Han organization deeply agitated everyone present. Everyone's expression changed abruptly. Especially Marcia and Richard. The Kosha mercenaries and slaying God were enough to scare Marcia and Richard. Marcia had completely dispelled the idea of keeping Yun Jian. However, the problem now was that Yun Jian and Ce would not agree to it even though Marcia had dispelled this ridiculous idea. They wanted to stop now that things had escalated to this stage. There was no easy solution in this world. An Han organization. I thought an Han organization doesn't participate in any country's disputes. Why? Marcia's expression changed again and again. Her face could no longer be described as flabbergasted. First, it was the Kosha mercenaries. Now, it was an Han organization. These 2 organizations were the assassin organizations that had caused an uproar in the world today. Marcia was so scared that she almost had a heart attack. Her whole life of being reserved and pretending to be elegant had completely collapsed at this moment. What are you going to do to Country H? At this moment, Richard finally understood the meaning of the word fear. He lifted his head and looked at Ce in horror. The expression in his eyes was endless fear. Country H will be destroyed because of you. Ce did not even look at Richard. He did not allow Yun Jian to speak. Instead, he pulled Yun Jian into his arms and said these words to Richard in despair. Country H, destroyed? No. To Richard, this was a fact that was harder to accept than death. I don't want Yun Jian anymore. I don't want Yun Jian to stay and be my woman. Let us go. Let us go. Richard ran toward Ce. Richard, who was not short, looked like a defeated captive at this moment. It was hilarious. When Ce heard Richard say, I don't want Yun Jian to stay and be my woman, his eyes suddenly flashed sharply. In the next second, just as Richard ran to Ce to beg for mercy, Ce lifted his leg and kicked Richard to the ground. He held on to Yun Jian tightly with one hand. When his other leg kicked Richard to the ground, he stepped on Richard's abdomen. Then, Ce stepped on Richard's abdomen and tossed and turned. His strength was so strong that Richard's internal organs made a gurgling sound. My woman can only be sullied by me. Who do you think you are? How dare you steal my woman? Prince of Country H? Even if you are the king of Country H, in front of me, you are still a piece of trash. As Ce spoke, his long legs stepped on Richard's abdomen even more violently. Richard's face turned green after being stepped on. The royal army of Country H had already been frightened by Yunjian and Ce. At this moment, no one dared to move. No, no, no. This is all my fault. Let us go. I kneel to you. Please let go. Is innocent. He did not do anything wrong. Please let go. Chapter 1548. How could he do this? At this moment, Marcia and Richard felt like dying. If Marcia and Richard weren't sure that Ce was a member of an Han just now, then Marcia and Richard were sure of it now. Because in today's world, other than some powerful countries, only an Han could completely disrupt H country's technology department in just a few minutes. This was too scary. In the high-tech world, if a hacker was good enough, he could do many incredible things. And an Han was a place where countless elites and talents were gathered. After the guard finished his words, he was also frightened by the atmosphere at the scene. How could the king of H country kneel to a stranger? Their prince of H country was actually being stepped on by a stranger. The guard who didn't know what was going on shouted and rushed towards Ce. At the same time, the guard took out a pistol from his waist and tried to aim it at Ce. He shouted, "Let go of our prince," and rushed towards Ce. However, just as the guard was about to fire, Ce lifted Richard from the ground and used Richard to block the guard's gun. The guard reacted quickly. Seeing that Ce used the prince to block the gun, he immediately put away his pistol and didn't fire. At the same time, Ce took 2 steps forward with his long legs and sent the guard flying with a kick. It was so fast that the people around them could not see it with their naked eyes. At the same time, his hands were tightly wrapped around Yunjian's slender waist and he couldn't bear to let go of Yunjian. After kicking the guard away, Ce stepped on Richard's body. However, this time, Ce didn't step on Richard's abdomen. Instead, he stepped directly on Richard's head. Richard was completely humiliated when Ce stepped on his head. As the prince of a country, as a global superstar, he didn't even have the strength to resist when his head was stepped on by a man. Richard was ashamed and desperate. Just kill me. Richard was not willing to continue being humiliated. However, this was not the end. Ce stepped on Richard's head, making it impossible for Richard to turn around. The strength of his leg was so great that Richard couldn't even turn over. The pain in his body and the humiliation in his heart almost drove Richard to the brink of collapse. But this was not the end. Ce held Yunjian with one hand and stepped on Richard's head. She said to Richard word by word, "She's my woman. Don't even think about it. Her entire body belongs to me. Even if it's going to be defiled, it can only be me. Because she belongs to me." Ce's possessiveness was shocking. After he said the last word to Richard, he lifted his leg that was stepping on Richard's head, but at the same time, he lifted his leg and kicked Richard's face, knocking him out. Ce was not throwing a tantrum. He was just handling a matter calmly. His Xiao Jian could only be his. Even if he wanted to, it could only be him. Everything about her, from her skin to her cells, could only belong to him. His personal possession. Even if she was tainted, it could only be done by him. My Marcia had completely lost her dignity as a queen. When she saw that Richard had fainted, she crawled toward Richard like a frightened dog. The crown on her head fell off as well. Marcia did not look like a queen at all. Richard and Marcia were completely scared out of their wits. Ce was already holding Yunjian's hand and walking out. Before he left, he took Xiao Yunju and the other 2 with him. He held Yun Jian's hand carefully with one hand while his other hand grabbed Xiao Yunzhu and the other two by their collars and dragged them outside. Yao Lily followed them out as well. She planned to look for Lin Wan, who had gone to the washroom because of a stomachache just now. Ce held Xiao Yunzhu's collar with one hand and Yun Jian's hand with the other like he was holding a treasure as they left Country H's palace. The Country H's royal army in Country H's palace did not dare to make a sound. They could only watch as Ce left with Yun Jian. Not long after Ce pulled Yun Jian out of the palace, Missouri-san arrived in a helicopter. Mo-san was called over by Ce. After Ce carried Xiao Yunzhu and the other three onto the helicopter, he carried Yun Jian onto the helicopter and returned to Country Z. Chapter 1549. Ce brought Yun Jian back to Country Z straight away. Of course, the matter in Country H was not over yet. He would deal with Marcia and Richard, but with Xiao Yunzhu and the other three here, Ce's actions just now had stunned Xiao Yunzhu and the others. Ce had wanted to crush Richard's head with his foot. If Xiao Yunzhu and the others saw such a gory scene, they would definitely be traumatized from their childhood. Therefore, it was all thanks to Xiao Yunzhu and the others that Richard was able to survive this time. What happened after that was simple. Ce did not declare war on Country H. Country H was not weak and it was easy for Ce's and Hun Group to annihilate the country. However, an Hun Group's internal influence would be greatly reduced after that. An Hun Group's influence might even fall to the level of the Kosha mercenaries. Of course, if Yun Jian had the intention to annihilate Country H, Ce would have done it. He did not care about anything else. Even if an Hun Group was gone, it was not as important as his Xiao Jian. His Xiao Jian was his everything. The necessary persecution was unavoidable. Richard and Marcia would pay a painful price for their actions. Yun Jian did not know what the price was for now. Yun Jian was currently sitting on Ce's lap. She could not move even if she wanted to. Xiao Yunzhu and the others had taken up more than half of the space in the helicopter, so she could only sit on Ce's lap obediently. Beep, beep, beep. Let's go, let's go. The scary thing was that Xiao Yunzhu and the others began to play with each other the moment they boarded the helicopter. There was only so much space in the helicopter. Xiao Yunzhu and the others began to play with each other. Yun Jian, who sat on Ce's lap, could clearly feel Xiao Yunzhu and the others accidentally bumping into Ce, causing her to jerk up and down on Ce's lap. It was as if, at this moment, Yun Jian could clearly feel that part of Ce was expanding at a fiery speed. Yun Jian hurriedly looked out of the window and pretended not to notice the change in Ce. The Xiao Yunzhu trio were still making a ruckus. At this moment, Yun Jian suddenly felt Ce leaning towards her right ear. She whispered to Yun Jian in a voice only the two of them could hear. "Xiao Jian, I want you." As soon as Ce finished speaking, Yun Jian almost slid down from Ce's lap. In the end, however, Yun Jian returned to Longmen City with a smile on her face despite Ce's harassment. Just as they arrived at Gu Yunjian's house, they saw Shuang sitting in the living room of Gu Yunjian's house. His chest was bare and a certain part of his muscular chest was wounded by a sword and was still bleeding. Si Luo, who sat beside Shuang, was applying medicine for him with trembling hands and tears in her eyes. Yun Jian and Ce, who witnessed the scene, frowned slightly. Qin Yiru was definitely not home and neither was Gu Junjian. That was why Shuang was here. "Woman, what are you crying for? I'm not dead yet. It's just a little injury." Shuang looked at Si Luo, who was wiping away her tears as she applied medicine for him. He was not in pain but was annoyed by her. "Sob, you're hurt. It hurts." Si Luo was no longer as fearful of the long scar on Shui Ying's neck as she used to. She was sobbing uncontrollably as she applied medicine for Shui Ying's trembling body. "Young master, it's someone from Yulong mainland." When Yun Jian and Ce saw the scene, Mo Sun who stood beside them spoke with a darkened gaze. Yulong mainland. The witch tribe is in trouble. Adam went missing not long ago after he sent the news back. Mo Sun's expression was grim. When he heard that Adam had gone missing, he had almost rushed to Yulong mainland to look for him. Yulong mainland. Yun Jian pressed her lips together with a raised brow. For some reason, her instincts told her something. Chapter 1550. Tell me the details. Ce lowered his dark eyes slightly. He looked sideways at Mo Sun and said these three words briefly. Yun Jian's eyes also lowered slightly. They had lost contact with Adam? Did this mean that they had lost track of Adam and the Yulong continent? Adam and Lan Su were together. If they lost contact with Adam, it meant that something must have happened to Lan Su. Something must have happened to the witch tribe. It's like this. Someone desperately escaped from the witch tribe and brought us news that something had happened to the witch tribe. The number one aristocratic family in the Yulong continent, the Huyan family, had attacked the witch tribe. At that time, that person was chased by a group of Huyan family's top experts to the organization. The Huyan family's top experts were all killed by Shuang. Cough cough, but Shuang suffered some minor injuries in order to save Si Luo. Mo Sun's brows furrowed tighter with every word he said. In short, the witch tribe was in danger. They did not know whether Adam, who was in the witch tribe, was in trouble. The number one aristocratic family in the Yulong continent, the Huyan family. Yun Jian uttered the words softly and slowly. A sharp glint flashed in her deep eyes as a sharp, murderous intent flashed in an unknown corner. Young master, are we going to the Yulong continent? Mo Sun suddenly frowned. He looked sideways at Ce and asked solemnly. Pack up. We'll leave in 3 days. Ce relaxed his brows slightly, but the seriousness on his face did not diminish. I'll go too. For some reason, Yun Jian could not let go of the witch tribe. Okay. Ce had no objection to Yun Jian going with him. Because he had enough strength to protect her. Send a helicopter to pick us up at the Min City Military Academy in 3 days. Ce looked at Yun Jian and said to Mo Senator he would not return to the Inhun organization in these 3 days. He wanted to accompany Yun Jian to the Min City Military Academy. Yes. Mo Sun replied solemnly when he heard that Ce was going to the Yulong continent. Ce did not believe that something had happened to Adam in the Yulong continent. Even if something did happen, it wouldn't be life-threatening. In other words, as one of his 4 great protectors, how could Adam be persecuted by a mere aristocratic family of Yulong mainland? Of course, going to Yulong mainland was purely because he understood her. Yun Jian would definitely go to the Yulong continent. Ce believed that she would go to the Yulong continent no matter if she was once the sorcerer goddess or the current her. Because the shaman tribe had once been her only hope for survival. It was a sudden decision to return to Yulong mainland. Ce intended to let Mo Sun and Shuang accompany her. Last time, it was Adam and Ma Sun. The Inhun organization couldn't be without people. It was enough to leave Lin Wei alone in the organization. I'm staying with Qingyu Jijia in Longmen City. Si Luo finally spoke up meekly and turned her gaze to Yun Jian, as if wanting Yun Jian to put in a word for her. Because Shuang refused. Indeed, the moment Si Luo finished speaking, Shuang grabbed Si Luo's hand and smelled the minty scent on Si Luo's body. No, you have to come with me. But if it weren't for me, you wouldn't be injured so badly. I can't hurt you anymore. I won't go. I'll stay in Longmen City with Qingyu Jijia. Si Luo blamed herself because Shui Ying's injury this time was her fault. Si Luo tried to break free from Shui Ying's grip, tears streaming down her cheeks at the thought of Shui Ying's injury. Let her stay in Longmen City with Qingyu. She won't run away, Yun Jian said softly when she saw the situation. The trip to Yulong mainland this time was not safe. Si Luo was just an ordinary girl. If she went along, Xueang would have to protect her. Si Luo was aware of this as well, which was why she refused to go. She did not want to be a burden to him. She would rather be the one injured. All right. Xueang relented at once at Yun Jian's persuasion. Chapter 1551. Si Luo looked up at Xueang. She actually wanted to ask if she could stay with Sister Qingyu forever. However, when she opened her mouth, Si Luo recalled that she had asked this before and was dragged away by Xueang every time. Si Luo gulped and nodded in the end. She did not ask the question that was in her heart. She felt that when Xueang came back and realized that she had been staying with Qingyu for so long, she must make it clear to him that she did not want to stay with him anymore. She was a girl. It was not good for her to stay with a guy like him. Yes, she would make it clear to Xueang when he came back. Early the next morning, Ce and Yun Jian went to Min City's military academy. They did not depart to Yulong mainland directly because they wanted to catch the Huyan family off guard. This was Ce's first time coming to Min City's military academy since school started. However, with Ce's age, the school could only arrange for him to be promoted to Senior 3. "I'll look for you in the afternoon," Ce said softly to Yun Jian as they walked to the teaching building. Yun Jian nodded. Ce then turned around with his hands in his pockets lazily as he made his way to the Year 3 classroom. It was only then that Yun Jian went to her classroom. Lin Wan did not know that Yun Jian had gone to the toilet when she revealed her identity in Country H's palace. Lin Wan had no idea what had happened in Country H when she saw Yun Jian coming in from the classroom door. She quickly waved at Yun Jian and smiled brightly. "Yun Jian, you're here for school. I told Muing about our trip to Country H 2 days ago. It was fun, wasn't it?" Lin Wan was not in Country H's palace at that time. She had gone to the toilet, so she did not see Country H's Queen Marcia's face. Therefore, in Lin Wan's eyes, she thought that Marcia and Richard, the Queen of H Kingdom, were quite friendly. Yun Jian didn't explain much. She just nodded her head in agreement with Lin Wan. No matter what Marcia and Richard had done before, since Lin Wan was not present at that time, it would be good to leave a good impression on her. For someone who didn't know the truth, there was no need to let her know the truth. Sometimes, knowing the truth wouldn't do any good. Muing had already returned to the Min Military Academy. Since Mad Dragon had returned to the Kosha mercenaries, there was no point for her to continue staying at home. "Yun Jian, come to the office." Just as the class was bustling with noise and excitement, before the class officially started, their homeroom teacher, Mr. Chu, stood at the front door of the classroom and waved to Yun Jian. After Ms. Chu called Yun Jian, she went back to her office. When the surrounding students saw that their homeroom teacher came to the classroom and called Yun Jian to the office personally, they were all in an uproar. "Oh my God, the homeroom teacher came to the classroom personally to call Yun Jian. Yun Jian, did you do something that annoyed the homeroom teacher? Hurry up and go to the office. Don't get scolded if you're late." Usually, nothing good happened in the office, so the students naturally thought so. Lin Wan also looked at Yun Jian in confusion. In the end, for Yun Jian's sake, she also said to Yun Jian, hurry up and go to the office. Yun Jian nodded. She turned and walked out of the classroom under the gaze of the whole class. Walking along the corridor to the office, Yun Jian saw more than 10 students standing in the office. However, Yun Jian had never seen these students before. She guessed that they must be second or third year students. Moreover, these students were all boys. This row of boys stood in the office with their heads slightly lowered. They looked very similar to boys who were punished for making a mistake. Just as Yun Jian walked into the office, Ms. Chu waved at Yun Jian. "Yun Jian, come Come. Everyone's here. Hurry up and come over. Although Yun Jian had her doubts, she still followed her. At this moment, Ms. Chu cleared her throat and said, "Ahem, it's like this. There are more than 10 high school military schools like Min City Military School all over the country. This year's new semester has just begun. All the high school military schools in the country are planning to send their strongest students to participate in a friendly competition. This friendly competition is a competition of strength. Ahem, of course, since more than 10 military schools are sending their strongest students to participate in the competition, we have to get a good ranking, right? As for you guys, you are the strongest students selected by our school. Because this competition notice is a little rushed, you have to pack your bags and participate in the competition this afternoon. This. If you guys don't have any objections, then it's decided." Just as Ms. Chu finished speaking, the boys standing around expressed that they had no objections. These boys were seniors from the second and third years of high school, but they had never seen Yun Jian before. In the past, there were more than 10 high school military schools in the country every year. However, those who were qualified to participate were usually male students. Moreover, they were definitely not new first-year students. Therefore, one of the boys looked at Yun Jian a few times. In the end, he couldn't help but look at Yun Jian with a questioning gaze. He said to Ms. Chu, "Ms. Chu, I have no objections to the others. This girl is a first-year student, right? Our school has never sent a girl to participate in such a large-scale friendly competition. Moreover, she's a first-year student." Chapter 1552. There were about a dozen military schools for high school students in the country. There weren't many military schools for high school students, but there were many military schools for university students. Min City Military School was a military school for high school students. There were only a dozen military schools for high school students like Min City Military School in the country. Normally, these military academies would send out their strongest students every year to participate in the friendly competition between the military academies of the high school age group. This was something that everyone in Min City Military School knew. However, there had never been a girl among the strongest students in the school who could participate in the friendly competition in the past. Moreover, the school usually wouldn't send freshmen to participate in such a friendly competition. Freshmen were students who had just entered high school and hadn't participated in the school's training. To put it bluntly, freshmen hadn't been trained and were no different from ordinary high school students. Unless the school was stupid, they definitely wouldn't send freshmen to participate in such a friendly competition. Therefore, the moment this boy finished speaking, the other boys protested. "That's right, teacher. We don't have any other opinions. You're asking a girl to participate in a friendly competition, and she's still a freshman. If she drags us down, we won't even have a place to cry. That's right. Teacher, you can't do this to us." These male students were all from the second and third year of high school. More importantly, these male students had participated in the same friendly competition as this one. Therefore, they were very concerned about whether they won the friendly competition or not. "Stop making noise. What are you guys doing?" Teacher Chu first knocked the heads of the dozen or so male students one by one, and then snorted softly. Then, Mr. Chu cleared his throat and said to the dozen or so male students, "Compared to Yun Jian, it's still not certain who's better. Moreover, this friendly competition will last for 3 days. On the first and second day of these 3 days, the organizers will bring you guys to a bodyguard company for training. That bodyguard company is a big company that's famous all over the world. There are many experienced bodyguards in it. When the time comes, the bodyguards of their bodyguard company will point out your weaknesses one by one and then correct them. The friendly competition will only be held on the last day of the 3 days." After Teacher Chu said this, he successfully attracted the attention of the dozen or so male students to other places. 2 days before the competition, we'll be sent to a bodyguard company for training? Teacher, the bodyguard company you're talking about, is it the world-famous cheetah bodyguard company? As soon as Teacher Chu finished speaking, a male student immediately asked in a surprised and crazy voice. After this male student finished his question, another male student answered in a shocked voice, "What's wrong with you? Cheetah Bodyguard Company? Isn't that a world-famous bodyguard company? I heard that Cheetah Bodyguard Company's bodyguards were formed after they retired from the top special forces from various countries. Moreover, the bodyguards of the Cheetah Bodyguard Company are all experts who have faced off against some of the top international assassins and secret agents. It's just like in movies, they're really amazing." After this boy finished speaking, the other boys were 10 male-cheeked. That's right. The bodyguard company you're going to for training is the Cheetah Bodyguard Company. Finally, under the expectant gazes of more than a dozen male students, Mr. Chu nodded. Chapter 1553. In the end, under the eager gazes of the male students, Mr. Chu forced a smile and waved his hand, indicating that the students could return to the classroom first. Go back to the classroom first. Gather at the field after lunch. In the afternoon, there will be a car to send you to Cheetah Bodyguard Company to meet with the students from the other military schools. After Mr. Chu said that, the male students turned around and left the office in groups of 2 or 3. Yun Jian, wait a minute, Mr. Chu called out to Yun Jian when the male students turned around and left the office. Yun Jian turned her head sideways and looked up at Mr. Chu. Although it's a friendly competition, the school knows what you're capable of. The school wants you to try your best to get first place in this friendly competition. It might be a little difficult. How confident are you? Mr. Chu asked Yun Jian. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. For some reason, Mr. Chu felt nervous for a moment. In the next second, Yun Jian suddenly broke into a smile and said confidently, "I'll win." Seeing Yun Jian return to the classroom from the office, Lin Wan was worried that Yun Jian had been called to the office by the homeroom teacher and was scolded. Seeing Yun Jian's relaxed and nonchalant expression, Lin Wan could not help but breathe a sigh of relief. She's probably been scolded by the teacher. How long is she pretending to be calm? Slashing God from Team Monarch? I think she's just so. Lin Shuya, who had always been at odds with Yun Jian, sat with a few other girls in the class and used exaggerated words to provoke Yun Jian. Ever since Yun Jian stole the limelight, Lin Shuya had been displeased with Yun Jian. However, Yun Jian had never bothered with Lin Shuya. In the last class in the morning, after the teacher announced the end of class, Yun Jian had just stood up when she heard a few girls in the classroom holding their faces and screaming. They were screaming so loudly that their bodies were trembling violently. Ah! Who's that guy? He's so handsome. Oh my God! Too handsome. Is he from our school? Why haven't I seen him in school before? The girls in the class screamed. Yun Jian didn't need to think to know that it was Ce. If it was an ordinary high school boy, hearing so many girls screaming at him, he would have already flown into the air. However, Ce was different. No matter how pretty or seductive the girls around him were, he only had eyes for Yun Jian. The people sitting around him were just a mass of air. Ce walked directly into Yun Jian's classroom in front of everyone. He then reached out his slender hand to grab Yun Jian's small hand and led her out. This scene made Lin Shuya so envious that she almost shouted out loud. Ce dragged Yun Jian to the vice principal's office in Min City Military Academy. At this moment, the vice principal was combing his bald head. The vice principal was facing the mirror and using the comb to comb the few remaining strands of hair in the center of his head. As he carefully combed his hair, he accidentally lost another strand of hair. Oh my God, my hair. If this goes on, I'm going to become bald. The vice principal sorrowfully held up the strand of hair that he had accidentally combed. He pinched the strand of hair with his fingertips and tried to put it back on his head. Bang! Before the vice principal could put the strand of hair back on his head, the door was suddenly kicked open, making a loud noise. The vice principal's hand slipped and he accidentally stuffed the strand of hair into his mouth. Oh my God, pooey pooey pooey. Pooey pooey pooey. He almost swallowed the strand of hair. The vice principal spat several mouthfuls of saliva before spitting out the strand of hair. Just as he came back to his senses, he saw a handsome man holding a girl's hand standing in front of him. I also want to participate in the friendly competition. He saw the handsome man walk in front of him and spit out these words. The vice principal raised his head and suddenly saw that the door to his office not far away had been broken by the handsome man's kick. The door had flown directly into his office. Seeing this, the vice principal was so scared that his butt slipped and he almost fell off his seat. Chapter 1554. The vice principal had already slid to the ground. He gripped his desk tightly to prevent himself from falling on his butt. The vice principal was a funny person. He usually played around with his classmates and had a lot of fun. The only drawback was that he was bald and had very little hair. The vice principal of Min City Military Academy was usually not in the school, so many things were decided by the vice principal. At this moment, the vice principal was so shocked by CE's actions that his face turned red and purple. You, which class are you two from? This, you guys are holding hands, you guys, you two, oh my God, did you two come to my office to show off your love? Don't you know that I've been catching couples in school these past few weeks? The vice principal didn't pay attention to CE's words. His attention was attracted by CE and Yunjian's tightly held hands. The school had a rule that stated that dating was not allowed. During this period, the vice principal had been patrolling around the school to catch couples who didn't follow the school rules. In the end, CE and Yunjian did it. What did they do? They held hands and ran to his office to show off their love? Are you kidding me? The vice principal stood up with a hand on his chest. He had lived for so many years and had been the vice principal for so many years. This was the first time he saw a couple in school showing off their love in his office. Old man, I'll say it again. I'm also participating in the friendly match this afternoon. CE ignored the vice principal's words and said directly. What? You want to participate in the friendly match this afternoon? Which class are you two from? What's your name? I'll deduct points from your class. Io, how dare you call me an old man? Although I'm really an old man, you're bullying me. The vice principal said as he stroked his chest, looking as though he had been dealt a heavy blow. CE. He only said his name. Okay. CE, right? I'll remember it. You're still calling me an old man. I'll remember it and deduct points. What? CE. Your name is CE. When the vice principal said the first half of the sentence, he was still looking for the booklet on his desk to record the weekly demerit points. However, he suddenly realized that the second half of the sentence was actually a cry of surprise. You said your name is CE? The vice principal was so shocked that he almost bit his own tongue. He stared at CE in shock. CE didn't say a word as she tossed her student ID to the vice principal. The vice principal opened it and glanced at it. He almost fainted. The principal of Min City's military academy had warned him repeatedly that no matter who he offended, he should never offend a student named CE. Give him whatever he wants. Otherwise, the Min City Military Academy would be finished. In the afternoon, right after lunch, CE helped Yunjian carry her school bag. There were some of her clothes in the bag, and the two of them walked to the sports field. The boys whom she had met in the office just now were already standing there waiting for her. When they saw Yunjian, their faces darkened. They looked at her as if they were certain that Yun Jian would be a burden. When they saw Ce, one of the male students who had previously mentioned Yun Jian shouted, "You're a transfer student. Why are you here?" This male student was Ce's classmate. His name was Wang Kun. Wang Kun was the strongest male student in the third year of high school, so he was very confident and felt that he was great. When he saw Ce, Wang Kun couldn't believe his eyes. How could a transfer student like Ce, who only had a good appearance, join the friendly match this time? Ce didn't respond. Ahem. There's a new student. Everyone, get ready to set off. The bus is here. Teacher Chu was the teacher in charge, so he coughed lightly and urged everyone. Chapter 1555. Wang Kun's words immediately gained the approval of the other male students. That's right. What's wrong with the school this year? Not only did they get a female freshman to participate in the friendly competition, they even allowed a transfer student to participate. Now, we don't even know if the transfer student is strong or weak. The school is really too much. Another male student said. Wang Kun, aren't you the strongest in our school? When we reach the Cheetah Bodyguard Company later, they will definitely know what fear is. You have to do what you did last year and bring glory to our school. Then, you have to bring us back with the third place among all the military academies. A male student standing beside Wang Kun patted Wang Kun's shoulder and said confidently. Of course. Last year, I brought everyone to third place among all the military academies. This year, I will definitely bring everyone back with the second place among all the military academies. Wang Kun gestured confidently. Last year, Min City Military Academy only got third place among all the military academies. Last year, it was also Wang Kun who led the team because Wang Kun was indeed strong. After all, there were more than a dozen military academies participating in the friendly competition. Getting third place was already impressive enough. Today, when they heard Wang Kun say that he was confident of getting second place among all the military academies, the dozen male students were all fired up. One must know that there were more than a dozen military academies participating in the friendly competition. To get second place was definitely considered outstanding. As for getting first place among all the military academies, this was something that they did not even need to think about. It was definitely impossible. Why did they say that? The answer was very simple. Among these dozen military academies, there was a school called Taiji Military Academy whose students were quite strong. How strong were they? In the friendly competition every year, Taiji Military Academy always got first place without any suspense. Therefore, Wang Kun's thoughts of getting first place were immediately dispelled. To be able to get second place was already very, very impressive for Wang Kun's group. Wang Kun's group of male students talked confidently, working hard to get second place among all the military academies. However, this group of people did not know that just now in the office, Yun Jian had already promised Teacher Chu that she would definitely win if she got first place among all the military academies. While they were talking, Yun Jian, Ce, and the others had already boarded the long-distance bus to the airport. After transferring from the airport, they finally arrived at Pu City in He Province after a 2-hour flight. He Province was far away from Zhe Province, but it only took 2 hours by plane. The Cheetah Bodyguard Company was located in Pu City, He Province. After getting off the plane, they took a bus and arrived at the Cheetah Bodyguard Company. The headquarters of the Cheetah Bodyguard Company was located in a tall building. As soon as Yun Jian, Ce, and the others entered, Wang Kun and the others couldn't help but exclaim. As expected of Cheetah Bodyguard Company. This place is too luxurious. Oh my God. Our 2 days of training will be here. Just thinking about it makes me excited. While Wang Kun and the rest were shouting, they were already brought to the lobby of the Cheetah Bodyguard Company. There was a group of people standing in the hall. It was not hard to tell that these people were some of the strongest students from different military academies. At a glance, the people standing in the hall were all men. There were 1 or 2 girls. More than a dozen military academies had chosen their strongest students to participate in this competition. In total, there were more than 100 people here. More than 100 people, but there were only 1 or 2 girls. It could be seen that this was a battlefield for men. If a girl appeared here, she would only be looked down upon. Yo! If I'm not wrong, you're students from Min City Military Academy, right? TSK, what's wrong? You couldn't beat our super godly military academy last year and got 3rd place. This year is even more impressive. You even brought girls to participate in the competition? You want to beat our super godly military academy? TSK, dream on. Chapter 1556. Lin Zigua. Just you wait. We will definitely surpass you this year. Wang Kun and the others clenched their fists in anger when they heard the malicious words of the boy who walked up to them. The boy who came up to speak with bad intentions was called Lin Zigua. Lin Zigua was a student from the Super Godly Military Academy. In last year's friendly competition, Taiji Military Academy won 1st place. 2nd place was Super Godly Military Academy. 3rd place was Min City Military Academy. Last year, Wang Kuan's team almost got 2nd place, but they were overtaken by Lin Zigua's team at the last moment. After that, every time they met Lin Zigua, Wang Kuan's team would be mocked and ridiculed. As time went by, grudges were formed. TSK, what can you use to surpass us? This little girl? Do you want to surpass our super godly military academy with this little girl? Ha! Ha ha ha, don't be too funny. I think there's no one in your school. I'm dying of laughter. Ha ha ha. It's really too funny. You're kidding me. Lin Zigua suddenly pointed at Yun Jian. He looked at Yun Jian and laughed at Wang Kuan and the rest. A girl dares to participate in such a large-scale friendly competition? What kind of joke is this? This girl looks skinny and weak. She doesn't have any strength at all. Min City Military Academy might not even be able to keep 3rd place this year. Pfft! Wang Kuan and the rest gritted their teeth in anger. Just then, Ce suddenly slapped away Lin Zigua's hand that was pointing at Yun Jian. His cold eyes reflected a sharp murderous intent. Point at her again and I'll cut your head off. Normal people wouldn't emit such a terrifying aura. Lin Zigua was suddenly frightened by Ce's gaze and immediately shut his mouth. You just wait and see. Lin Zigua said as he ran away. Ce's aura surprised Wang Kuan and the rest, but they did not say much when they recovered from the shock. Gather. The instructor clapped his hands and signaled for everyone to quiet down. This is our Cheetah Bodyguard Company's chief bodyguard, Lin Kuei. He used to be one of the strongest special forces soldiers in the world. After he retired, he became our Cheetah Bodyguard Company's chief bodyguard. He once completed 9 extremely dangerous SSS-level missions with outstanding results, apprehended the world's top assassin, and captured an agent ranked 9th on the International Secret Agent ranking. He has participated in 21 international criminal gang arrest missions. His strength is one of the best in the world, let alone in Z country. The next 2 days of training will be led by our Cheetah Bodyguard Company's chief bodyguard, Lin Kuei. After the instructor finished speaking, more than 100 students from different military academies turned their gazes to this chief bodyguard called Lin Kuei. Lin Kuei was 1.9 meters tall. His muscular body and firm chest made people feel intimidated just by looking at him from afar. When Lin Kuei heard that the instructor had given him the responsibility, he stood up. Hello everyone, I'm Lin Kuei. I'll be leading you for the next 2 days. In order to not let anyone doubt my strength, the instructor will draw a student's name from the lucky draw box over there to fight with me. The paper in this lucky draw box has the names of all the students present. If the student who is drawn can withstand one attack from me, I swear that I will never call myself the chief bodyguard again. Lin Kuei said confidently. The instructor beside him immediately drew a piece of paper from the lucky draw box under everyone's gaze. Then, under everyone's expectant gaze, he announced the name on the paper, Yun Jian. Why did this name sound like a girl's? The surrounding people were stunned. It was only when Yun Jian walked towards Lin Kuei that the surrounding students widened their eyes in shock. Why did he draw a girl? This girl was so thin and weak. She wanted to fight Lin Kuei? What kind of joke was this? Even Lin Kuei was stunned for a moment. When Lin Kuei came back to his senses, he coughed lightly and said to Yun Jian, who was walking towards him, "Ahem, since you've drawn a little girl, you win if you can touch the corner of my shirt." Lin Kuei obviously wanted to give in to Yun Jian. "No need," Yun Jian shouted from the other side. After saying that, Yun Jian spoke again in the next second. Wang Kun, who was standing in the distance, and everyone around him suddenly widened their eyes. Chapter 1557. When Yun Jian said such arrogant words, Lin Kuei, who was standing not far away from her, was stunned. The surrounding students from military academies from all over the country were all stunned. When they heard about Lin Kuei's battle record, all the male students were already excited. Lin Kuei was a special forces soldier who had dealt with international criminals. He had even captured the 9th on the international secret agent list alive. This kind of capital and ability was enough to scare any student present. Therefore, everyone present was 100% confident in Lin Kuei's ability. However, at this time, the person who was chosen to represent everyone was actually a girl. When they found out about this, all the boys were already certain that Yun Jian would not be able to survive one move from Lin Kuei. Because Lin Kuei's battle record was there for all to see. Therefore, when Lin Kuei said that if Yun Jian could touch the corner of his shirt, it would be her win, this sentence made the surrounding boys' blood boil. Lin Kuei was indeed the chief bodyguard of the Cheetah Bodyguard Company. His words were so domineering. So cool. However, before the surrounding people could react, Yun Jian had already spoken. She actually said to Lin Kuei that the person who could not survive one move from her was him. For a moment, there was a deathly silence, and then a roar of laughter rang out. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. I'm dying of laughter. Ha ha ha. What did she say? She actually said that the person who could not survive one move from her was Lin Kuei? Did she not listen to Lin Kuei's battle record? Lin Kuei's ability is enough to kill her in seconds. She's also a girl. Ha ha ha. I'm dying of laughter. I'm dying of laughter. The person who was laughing was Lin Zigua from the Super Godly Military Academy. As a student of the Super Godly Military Academy, Lin Zigua had always been in a hostile state with the Min City Military Academy. Today, with Yun Jian's performance, Lin Zigua had found a way to mock the Min City Military Academy, so he took the lead to jeer. Immediately, other people followed suit, and for a moment, there was only laughter left. Ce stood not far away with a calm expression. Although he was as calm as a mountain, he had already memorized every face that mocked Yun Jian and planned to throw them out after the friendly competition. Cough. Little girl, it's not that I, Lin Kuei, am looking down on you, but you're a girl. I'm really afraid of hurting you. Lin Kuei finally opened his mouth. He first coughed lightly before speaking. He paused for a moment before continuing, I'm sorry. How about this? You go down and get someone else to come up. If you can even touch the corner of my clothes within 3 moves, I'll consider it my loss. Before Lin Kuei could finish his sentence, he saw Yun Jian suddenly dash in front of him. Lin Kuei's pupils suddenly contracted. Before he could finish his sentence, Yun Jian had already launched her attack. Yun Jian's speed was simply too fast. In a flash, she was already beside him. When Lin Kuei saw this, his pupils constricted. He immediately realized that Yun Jian, the little girl in front of him, was no ordinary person. However, just as Lin Kuei reacted extremely quickly and made a defensive gesture, Yun Jian, who was already beside him, wrapped her hands around his arm like a snake's body. Yun Jian pulled Lin Kuei's arm forward. At the same time, she lifted her leg and kicked Lin Kuei in the abdomen. In the next second, in front of everyone, Yun Jian's 1.6-meter skinny body directly kicked the 1.9-meter tall big guy and sent him flying. This entire process only took a mere 3 seconds. When the students in the distance saw this scene, their bodies violently straightened. In the next second, their pupils contracted and their eyeballs almost fell out of their sockets. Lin Kuei was an astonishing existence who had once captured the 9th-ranked agent on the International Secret Agent rankings alive. As for Yun Jian, she was just an ordinary female student. She actually defeated Lin Kuei. One move? How was this possible? At this moment, they heard Yun Jian's heavenly voice again. Her voice carried a hint of indifference. Chapter 1558. Yun Jian's words reached the ears of Wang Kun, Lin Zigua, Lin Kuei, and the rest who had looked down on Yun Jian for being a girl. There was only one thing that could be said about the fight just now. Regardless of whether it was Wang Kun who came from Min City Military Academy like Yun Jian, Lin Zigua who was an enemy of Min City Military Academy, or Lin Kuei, the chief bodyguard of Cheetah Bodyguard Company. The most similar thing about them was that they looked down on Yun Jian. They looked down on Yun Jian because she was a girl. Yun Jian's move just now was a direct slap to their faces. Lin Kuei, who got up from the ground, was in a state of shock. How confident he was just now was how pathetic he was now. In front of so many people, he was sent flying by Yun Jian's kick without any mercy. Little girl. You. Where did you learn that move just now? The surrounding people were completely petrified. Only Lin Kuei got up from the ground pathetically and looked at Yun Jian in a daze. Yun Jian's move just now gave him a sense of déjà vu, self-taught. Yun Jian stood coldly on the spot, pursed her red lips, and said calmly. That move. I think I've seen it somewhere before. Where was it? Lin Kuei scratched his head when he heard that and fell into a state of recollection. The surrounding people were speechless. Each of them was so shocked by Yun Jian's move that their eyeballs almost fell out of their sockets. Wang Kun was the most terrified among them. Wang Kun was the strongest person in Min City Military Academy. This was publicly acknowledged by the Min City Military Academy. Hence, when he first saw Yun Jian, Wang Kun had a feeling that he was superior. In addition, Wang Kun looked down on girls. In Wang Kun's mind, what use could a girl be? Other than being a burden, a girl was useless. Other than showing off his prowess in front of the girls and receiving a few screams of, "Wow, you're so powerful," which gave him great satisfaction. What's the use of girls? Especially when they found out that Yun Jian was still a freshman in high school, Wang Kun and the others only looked at Yun Jian with contempt. A female freshman wanted to represent Min City Military Academy in such a large-scale friendly competition? Was she here to drag him down? Therefore, at the beginning, Wang Kun and the others despised Yun Jian as much as they could with Yun Jian. But until just now, Yun Jian's strength had completely overturned everyone's understanding. Wang Kun even thought that even 10 of him wouldn't be a match for Yun Jian's move. Ce had already walked to Yun Jian's side in front of everyone. He pulled Yun Jian into his embrace in front of everyone, as though he was declaring his sovereignty over her. After Ce pulled Yun Jian into his arms, he stroked her hair that was slightly swaying in the breeze. He was silent for 2 seconds before speaking softly to Yun Jian in front of everyone. I won't allow anyone to look down on you. Otherwise, I'll kill them without mercy. In the lobby of Cheetah Bodyguard Company, a strong beam of sunlight shone in through the huge floor-to-ceiling window. The sunlight shone on Yunjian and Ce as though they were the only two people left in the world. Their matching figures made Ce and Yunjian seem to be more than just a handsome man and a beautiful woman. Lin Kuei's enlightened voice rang while the people around them stared at Yunjian and Ce in bewilderment. What he said in the next second made everyone's jaws drop. I remember now. I remember now. I'll never forget this skill for the rest of my life. 3 years ago, I took part in an operation to capture the #1 agent on the International Secret Agent ranking, slaying God. During that operation, I fought against the #1 agent on the International Secret Agent ranking, slaying God. Her strength was so amazing that I didn't even have a 0.0000001 chance of winning. Chapter 1559. Lin Kuei had a nagging feeling that he had seen Yunjian's skills before, but he could not recall it no matter how hard he racked his brain. Just now, Lin Kuei had seen Ce wrap his arm around Yunjian. The way they matched each other, it was as if the people around them were ants while they were kings and deities who saved them from torment. 2 words appeared in Lin Kuei's mind when he saw this scene. King. Yunjian's ability. King. Lin Kuei had only faced one person in his entire life who had the ability of a king. That person was the #1 on the International Secret Agent ranking, slaying God. That was a terrifying existence that made one's fingertips go numb from fear. Lin Kuei's earlier words popped up in his mind. He thought about it and said it out loud. The ability that Yunjian had displayed earlier was beyond what a military high school student should be capable of. Instead, it was very similar to the terrifying existence in his memory. Lin Kuei was shocked as well. He was now in a state of stupor. Lin Kuei was shocked. However, at this moment, after hearing Lin Kuei's words, the shocked expressions of the surrounding students could no longer be described with words. The #1 on the International Secret Agent ranking, slaying God? What kind of existence was that? That was an existence that struck terror into the hearts of others. Just the mere mention of this name was enough to make one tremble in fear. Most of the students present were from military schools all over the country. They were the most ordinary students in the military schools. The #1 on the International Secret Agent ranking, slaying God, that Lin Kuei mentioned, was an existence that no one present dared to imagine. That was a shocking and frightening existence. Therefore, when Lin Kuei mentioned that he had faced the #1 on the International Secret Agent ranking, slaying God, and that slaying God's skills were on par with Yunjian's, all the students around, including the instructors who were standing at the side, were shocked beyond words. The #1 on the International Secret Agent ranking, slaying God? Slaying God's skills are on par with hers? Is this for real? Lin Ziguo was so scared that he couldn't be described as shocked. His eyes were wide open as he stared at the scene in front of him. He was the first to ask in shock. Everyone snapped back to their senses as soon as he said that. Their sharp eyes stared at Yunjian as if they were waiting for Yunjian's reply. Yunjian's eyes flashed when she saw that everyone was looking at her. If I'm the #1 on the International Secret Agent ranking, slaying God, do you think you can still stand in front of me and talk to me? Yunjian's indifferent voice was heard as she spoke softly. Yunjian's nonchalant voice seemed to have a magical power. Her words made everyone present feel at ease all of a sudden. It was undeniable that Ce had taught Yunjian how to lie. She said slaying as she spoke. The people around them were at a loss when they heard what Yunjian said. That's right. Slaying God doesn't look like you. I'm probably being too sensitive. Cough. Lin Kuei suddenly reacted. He scratched his head and thought about it. In the end, he felt that Yun Jian was right. However, even if you're not slaying God, it's an indisputable fact that you've defeated me earlier. I, Lin Kuei, am willing to admit it. From today onwards, I'll step down from my title as the chief bodyguard. Lin Kuei was a righteous man. He patted himself on the shoulder and calmly said those words. After he finished speaking, the people standing not far away had yet to recover from the shock. Lin Kuei had just finished speaking when he turned to look at Yun Jian in front of everyone and said something that shocked everyone. Chapter 1560. Although Lin Kuei looked down on women in the beginning, he was a man who dared to take responsibility for his actions. His strength and talent were on par with each other. When he told Yun Jian that he wanted to be her disciple, Lin Kuei's words were full of modesty and humility. When he said that he wanted to be Yun Jian's disciple, Lin Kuei didn't feel embarrassed in front of everyone. Although Yun Jian was young, Lin Kuei didn't feel that it was shameful for him to want to be Yun Jian's disciple. Being shameless was an important reason why Lin Kuei had the strength he had now. Lin Kuei didn't care about the reactions of the people around him. At this moment, Lin Kuei was looking straight at Yun Jian. He looked as if he was waiting for Yun Jian's reply. Lin Kuei really wanted to get an affirmative answer from Yun Jian. However, before Lin Kuei could get the answer he was looking for from Yun Jian's mouth, a mellow voice sounded. This magnetic male voice answered for Yun Jian first. She won't accept you. Why? Lin Kuei exclaimed immediately. Why wouldn't Yun Jian accept him? Because I won't allow it. Ci's flat voice sounded, causing Lin Kuei to be dazed for a moment. Ci's handsome face attracted attention wherever he went. Lin Kuei had already noticed Ce when Ce reached out to hug Yun Jian. Who are you to her? It's her choice whether to accept a disciple or not. Who are you to make the decision for her? Lin Kuei didn't have a good impression of Ce's tyranny. Lin Kuei believed that everyone had the right to make their own choices. Ce was handsome, but who knew if he was a gigolo? A gigolo who only had looks but no strength? Lin Kuei was already in his 40s. He wasn't good-looking, but he was especially popular with girls when he was young. That was because Lin Kuei was strong. He believed that as a man, he could be ugly, but he definitely couldn't be like Ce, who only relied on his looks to attract girls. Therefore, when Ce stood up for Yun Jian and rejected him, Lin Kuei was upset. The more Lin Kuei looked at Ce, the more he felt that he was a gigolo. As soon as Lin Kuei finished speaking, Ce's sharp eyes swept over him. His hawk-like sharp eyes stared straight at Lin Kuei. At this moment, Lin Kuei felt as if he was being stared at by the Grim Reaper. Ce grabbed Yun Jian's small hand and turned to look at Lin Kuei with a murderous glint in his eyes. This gaze caused Lin Kuei's entire body to tremble. If you dare to pester my woman again, the Cheetah Bodyguard Company will be destroyed because of you. Ce's sharp gaze made Lin Kuei break out in cold sweat. She didn't know why, but the man in front of her clearly looked like a pretty boy. How could he have such sharp eyes? Everyone standing in the distance was dumbfounded. Especially Wang Kun and the others. Wang Kun and the others were all students from Min City's military academy. The school didn't send them here to let Ce and Lin Kuei quarrel. Moreover, Lin Kuei was the chief bodyguard of the Cheetah Bodyguard Company. The Cheetah Bodyguard Company wasn't weak. Even Min City's military academy had to give them face. But what about Ce? He represented Min City's military academy. In the end, he said such words to Lin Kuei in front of everyone. Wasn't he just looking for trouble? Just as Wang Kun was about to growl at Ce and tell Ce not to cause trouble, a loud voice beat Wang Kun to Ce. Let's see who dares to touch my Cheetah Bodyguard Company. When everyone heard this loud voice, they couldn't help but turn their heads. They saw a well-dressed middle-aged man in a formal suit entering the Cheetah Bodyguard Company's main entrance with a group of men dressed as bodyguards behind him. When this well-dressed middle-aged man entered the arena, everyone turned to look at him. The middle-aged man walked in with a dignified air. Seeing this middle-aged man, even Lin Kuei felt a sense of respect. He lowered his head to the middle-aged man and said, "Chairman." That's right, the middle-aged man who was shouting at CE was the chairman of the Cheetah Bodyguard Company, Wen Jintian. At this moment, Wen Jintian ignored Lin Kuei who was shouting at him. He walked straight to CE. Although he was shorter than CE, he pretended to be domineering and shouted at CE. Chapter 1561. Wen Jintian had just walked in when he heard CE's voice. He actually said that he wanted to destroy the Cheetah Bodyguard Company. Youngsters these days were so young, yet they were so arrogant. Wen Jintian was instantly enraged. Hence, he walked straight in through the main entrance. He didn't even greet Lin Kuei as he directly shouted at CE. When the surrounding people heard Lin Kuei address Wen Jintian as chairman, they all reacted. This was probably the chairman of the Cheetah Bodyguard Company. Everyone had witnessed Yun Jian's capabilities, but in their eyes, CE was just a weak gigolo. Furthermore, Wang Kun and the others knew that CE was a transfer student. They didn't even know if he had any capabilities. How dare he be so arrogant? And he even said that he wanted to destroy the Cheetah Bodyguard Company? He must be dreaming. How could he destroy the Cheetah Bodyguard Company? Did he think that he was some powerful legendary figure? More importantly, the moment CE said that he wanted to destroy the Cheetah Bodyguard Company, the chairman of the Cheetah Bodyguard Company happened to overhear it. CE must have a death wish if the chairman of the Cheetah Bodyguard Company overheard it. The surrounding people were horrified just by looking at it, let alone CE himself. When the chairman of the Cheetah Bodyguard Company, Wen Jintian, entered the room, it was obvious that he was angered by CE. He didn't even have time to respond to Lin Kuei's greeting before he stared straight at CE and shouted what he had just said. The surroundings were completely silent. Wen Jintian's aura was strong. After he spoke, the students present didn't dare to say another word. Wen Jintian had always been confident in his aura. He turned his head to look at CE. Seeing that CE was indifferent to what he had just said, he couldn't hold it in any longer. He spoke again with a slightly heavy tone. "Which military school are you from? Go back now. Our Cheetah Bodyguard Company doesn't accept gigolos like you. I don't care if young people nowadays use their appearance to put on airs. But in my Cheetah Bodyguard Company's territory, I won't allow you to put on airs in front of me." Wen Jintian wanted to chase them out without a second word. His tone was so tough that even if CE apologized on the spot, he would never forgive him. "Chairman. Chairman. It was his fault just now. Let's see if we can forgive him. I'm sure he won't dare to do it again." The leading teacher of Min City's military academy hurriedly ran to Wen Jintian to beg for forgiveness. The status of the Cheetah Bodyguard Company was one of the best in the world. As for Wen Jintian, as the chairman of the Cheetah Bodyguard Company, the people he dealt with were all international big shots. Therefore, no matter who they provoked, they would never provoke him. Everyone present was well aware of this. However, everyone thought that CE was stupid. He actually said those words in front of Wen Jintian. According to Wen Jintian's personality, he naturally wouldn't forgive CE. Moreover, Wen Jintian was short and ugly. Looking at CE's young and handsome face, Wen Jintian was envious of him, but he wouldn't say it out loud. Young people should be responsible for their words and actions. He has to leave. Wen Jintian glared at CE with his round eyes. "Old man, are you sure?" CE, who was standing opposite him, said coldly with a smirk, "Old man, are you sure?" "Old man? What? You called me old man?" Which military school are you from? Let me tell you, you're expelled from your military school. How dare you call me old man, When Wen Jintian heard Siyi's words, he was so angry that he almost vomited blood. Not only did he plan to force Siyi to leave his cheetah bodyguard company, but he also planned to use his influence to force Siyi to be expelled from Min City's military academy. In everyone's eyes, Siyi's actions were completely suicidal. Was he stupid? How dare he challenge Wen Jintian? Wen Jintian was a tough person. If someone said something wrong in front of him, Wen Jintian was the kind of person who wouldn't forgive them even if they were beaten to death. Just when everyone thought that Siyi was doomed for provoking Wen Jintian, a loud male voice suddenly came from the entrance. Then, Shui Ying's figure appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Chapter 1562. Shuang strolled in from the entrance of Cheetah Bodyguard Company. His shoes made a shiny sound as they rubbed against the smooth floor. His words were heard by every student, the chairman of Cheetah Bodyguard Company, Wen Jintian, and all the bodyguards. Everyone shuddered in fear. The students might not know what kind of existence an Han organization was. To them, organizations like an Han organization and Kosha mercenaries didn't have much of an idea. Perhaps some of them had heard of them. However, to the chairman of Cheetah Bodyguard Company, Wen Jintian, who had been trying to curry favor with an Han organization and gain some benefits from them, this was fatal news. Wen Jintian obviously knew Shui Ying. After hearing Shui Ying's words, he and Lin Kuei both looked at Siyi in fear. Young master? Then you are. Wen Jintian's mouth was full of shock. His pupils shrank as he stared at Siyi. Watch your mouth. If you say another word, Cheetah Bodyguard Company will be put on an Han organization's must-kill list. Shuang shouted at Wen Jintian. This shout scared Wen Jintian so much that he shut his mouth. An Han organization's must-kill list. What was a must-kill list? Any person or organization that was put on an Han organization's must-kill list would be hunted down by an Han organization. An Han organization had so many world-class secret agents and assassins. Any person or organization that was put on an Han organization's must-kill list would be hunted down by an Han organization until their death was confirmed. Throughout history, no one had ever escaped the pursuit of an Han organization's must-kill list. Without exception, they would all die. Therefore, an Han organization's must-kill list had always been a taboo for the international bigwigs. Shui Ying's shout had succeeded in making Wen Jintian tremble. Seeing Wen Jintian take a step back, Shuang didn't have the time to chat with him. He strode towards Siyi and whispered something in Siyi's ear. Siyi's gaze sharpened. In the next second, he pulled Yun Jian's hand and walked out. Hey, you, what are you going to do? The teacher from Min City's military academy exclaimed when he saw Siyi and Yun Jian walking out. We'll take 2 days off and return on time for the friendly match, Siyi said calmly without turning his head as he held on to Yun Jian's hand. The teacher in charge of the Min City Military Academy had no idea what was going on. He opened his mouth, but in the end, he let Siyi and Yun Jian go. Students from military academies all over the country were arranged to train at the Cheetah Bodyguard Company. Their goal was to stand out in the friendly competition on the 3rd day. Yun Jian's strength was already on display. Even the chairman of the Cheetah Bodyguard Company feared Siyi's power. The teacher in charge of the Min City Military Academy didn't dare to stop them. He could only hope that Yun Jian and Siyi would come back as soon as possible. At this moment, Siyi had already pulled Yun Jian's small hand and walked out of the gate with Shuang. Shuang had only said 7 words to Siyi, "There's an incident in Yulong mainland." Therefore, Siyi and Yun Jian immediately took Shuang and Mo-san to Yulong mainland. At this moment, Yulong mainland, the Huyan clan, the #1 aristocratic family of Yulong mainland, was celebrating at this moment. The patriarch of the Huyan clan, Huyan Ba, was standing in front of the Huyan clan's people, looking down at them. "Father, the Wu race has been defeated by my Huyan clan. Tomorrow, the Wu race will become the slaves of my Huyan clan." "Humph, I think that the legend of the return of the witch god is just empty talk." A 1.55 meters tall man was standing next to Huyan Ba. He looked old and fat. His face was full of indulgence. This man was Huyan Ba's son. His name was Huyan Lei. "The legend of the return of the witch god is just a bluff. Humph. The Wu race is just a thing in my palm," Huyan Ba said confidently. Chapter 1563. It was no secret that Huyan Lu was addicted to beauty. Although Huyan Ba hated Huyan Lu's bad habit, he was still his son, so Huyan Ba could only nod. "Once the shaman race is dominated by my Huyan clan, you can do whatever you want with the shaman girls." Huyan Ba never cared about these things. All he wanted was to dominate. Back then, when the Murong family was suddenly destroyed by the sorcerer tribe, Huyan Ba was actually quite worried that the sorcerer god of the sorcerer tribe had returned. However, how could the sorcerer race allow the Huyan clan to sit on the throne of the #1 aristocratic family of the Yulong continent for so long if the sorcerer god of the sorcerer race were to return? Back then, the sorcerer god was extremely powerful. The god of sorcerer had decided that it was impossible for him to tolerate the Huyan clan sitting on the throne of the #1 aristocratic family. The sorcerer god had yet to return. The only possibility was that the sorcerer tribe had already obtained the sandalwood box. It was a sandalwood box that could destroy all the continents in the universe in an instant. However, Huyan Ba felt his eyelids twitching. He had a bad premonition. As for what this bad premonition was, he didn't know. The next morning, the sky of the Yulong continent was still in the early stages of dawn. However, the sorcerer race's palace had already been destroyed by the powerhouses sent by the Huyan clan. At that moment, the people of the sorcerer tribe were retreating to a mountain behind the sorcerer tribe palace. "Patriarch, we can't resist the Huyan clan's attack any longer. What should we do? Where is the sorcerer god? Would the sorcerer god come to his rescue? Will our witch race really be exterminated by the Huyan clan?" At the back of the mountain, everyone looked at Wu Lan, the tribe leader of the sorcerer tribe, and asked a terrifying question. There were many aristocratic families in the Yulong continent. Big aristocratic families like the Huyan clan and the sorcerer race weren't the only ones who were at war. The other small aristocratic families of the Yulong continent were also at war with each other. On the losing side, all the men in the clan would be killed, and the girls and women would become the slaves of the winning side. To put it bluntly, they were prostitutes. This was the eternal principle of the Yulong continent. Most of the members of the sorcerer tribe were women, and all of them were as beautiful as fairies. Outsiders had long been itching for them. As the leader of the sorcerer tribe, Wu Lan frowned. Lan Su was standing beside him, and Adam was also standing beside Lan Su. "As long as I'm here, nothing will happen to you," Adam frowned and said. He had spent some time with Lan Su in the Yulong mainland. Compared to before, he had become much more mature. But as long as Lan Su refused to be with him, Adam would still use his stubborn temper to force Lan Su to be with him. Adam wasn't without confidence when he said this. He was one of the 4 great guardians of the Lord Divine Lord. It was a pity that he had lost all of his spirit power. If he were to forcefully use his spirit power, he could still raise the Yulong mainland to the ground. However, he had lost his previous spiritual power. If he were to forcefully use his spiritual power now, he would never be able to recover it. Therefore, he wouldn't use his spiritual power until the very end. Lan Su's eyes twinkled. Suddenly, the voice of the Huyan clan's patriarch, Huyan Ba, was heard from the opposite side of the mountain. "People of the shaman tribe, listen up. If you hand over the sandalwood box obediently, I won't make things difficult for you. But, if you don't hand over the sandalwood box, then, my Huyan clan won't be soft-hearted. It didn't matter whether the sorcerer tribe obediently handed over the sandalwood box or not. They couldn't escape the fate of becoming prostitutes of the sorcerer tribe. This was the so-called winner takes all. Huyan Ba was still shouting from the opposite side. Huyan Suo was rubbing his hands. He couldn't wait to experience the feeling of riding those delicate and tender girls of the sorcerer tribe under his body. Huyan Ba was standing on the opposite side of the mountain. He was looking at the sorcerer tribe. Then, a beautiful female voice was heard from behind him. It sounded like the sound of nature. It made Huyan Ba and all the people of the Huyan clan tremble. How dare you attack my sorcerer tribe while I'm not here? Huyan clan, how dare you? Chapter 1564. When Huyan Ba heard the voice that he had only heard 1,000 years ago, he was so scared that he quickly turned around. However, he saw an unfamiliar girl in short sleeves and long pants standing in front of him. Huyan Ba's brows were tightly knitted together. Thousands of years ago, when the sorcerer god was famous in the Yulong continent, Huyan Ba was still a rascal who was wandering in the Yulong continent. Therefore, Huyan Ba had never seen the sorcerer god at that time. Naturally, Yun Jian's appearance was also unfamiliar to Huyan Ba. Oh! What a beautiful little beauty! Huyan Lu, who was standing next to Huyan Ba, did not know the meaning of Yun Jian's words at all. The moment he saw Yun Jian, his eyes widened. The clothing of the Yulong continent was almost the same as the ancient costumes of Z country. Therefore, in the eyes of Huyan Lu and the others, Yun Jian's short sleeves were extremely revealing. Therefore, just by looking at Yun Jian's tender arms, Huyan Lu felt a certain part of his lower body erect. Huyan Lu felt that just by looking at Yun Jian's tender arms, he could not help himself. If this little beauty was lying under him. TSK. How ecstatic would that be? However, before Huyan Lu could have any thoughts about Yun Jian, CE, who was standing next to Yun Jian, stretched out his right hand. He raised his slender right palm and grabbed Huyan Lu's face from a distance of more than 10 meters. Pa pa pa. In the next second, a series of explosive sounds were heard. At the back of the mountain, the people of the sorcerer tribe, Wulan, Lan Su, Adam, and the people of the Huyan family, including Huyan Ba, were all present. They clearly saw Huyan Lu's eyeballs, who was standing in front of them and staring at Yun Jian. After CE stretched out his hand and grabbed him, his eyeballs instantly burst. In the next second, there were only 2 small holes where Huyan Lu's eyes used to be. His eyeballs disappeared without a trace. Ah! My eyes! Eyes! Ah! In the next breath, Huyan Lu's painful roar was heard. Huyan Lu fell to the ground and rolled on the ground in pain. This unforeseen event only took 1 second. CE's attack was so quick that no one there could react in time. Huyan Ba watched his son's eyeballs being crushed by CE in the air. By the time Huyan Ba reacted, his son, Huyan Lu had already fallen to the ground and rolled. Initially, Huyan Ba was still considering that Yun Jian's familiar voice sounded very similar to the sorcerer god in the past. Now, however, he could not hold himself back anymore. Pfft, those were all people who had already died. Kill him, clan elder. The people of Huyan clan couldn't help but shout. Huyan Ba was the strongest person in Yulong mainland. His spiritual power was second to none. Therefore, the people of Huyan clan were very confident. Even Huyan Ba was confident that no one in Yulong mainland could rival him as long as the sorcerer god didn't appear. Just as Huyan Ba was 3 meters away from CE, he had gathered his most powerful spiritual energy and was about to hurl it at CE to kill him, but CE was suddenly struck by lightning. The spiritual power that Huyan Ba had gathered in his hand disappeared in the next second under the watchful eyes of the people of Huyan clan. It disappeared? Only the sorcerer god can make an immortal cultivator's spiritual power disappear within 3 meters of him. In the next breath, everyone's eyes widened as they turned to look at Yunjian in shock. Chapter 1565. Huyanba's eyeballs were about to fall out of their sockets. Back then, Huyanba was confident that the sorcerer god could not return. Now, he was terrified that Yunjian was the sorcerer god. No, no, this is impossible. The sorcerer god cannot return. How is this possible? How is it possible for the sorcerer god to return? How is it possible for him to return? At this moment, Huyanba was shaking his head frantically. He was shaking his head in horror as he spoke these words. The sorcerer god could not return? Where did it go wrong? Didn't the sorcerer god fall completely? How could the sorcerer god still exist in this world? Are you surprised? When the Huyan clan tried to destroy the sorcerer tribe, it was the time for the Huyan clan to reach a dead end. Today, I will destroy the Huyan clan with my own hands and restore the sorcerer tribe's throne as the #1 family in the Yulong continent. After Yunjian finished speaking, she took out the god-vanquishing blade that Ce had made for her and held it in her palm. Then, she pointed the god-vanquishing blade at Huyanba. When the god-vanquishing blade was held in Yunjian's hand, the sharp blade emitted a sharp luster. In the next second, the brilliance of the god-vanquishing blade illuminated the whole place. The god-vanquishing blade was a legendary blade. The person who owned it could not only kill an immortal cultivator with a single slash, but more importantly, the person who owned it could even kill the most powerful deities of the gods' continent. It could be said that the person who owned this blade was the master of all the continents. This blade had been in the hands of the Lord Divine Lord since it was born. Ce had given such a treasure to Yunjian. It was as if he had handed over his position as the master of the continent to her. The only deity in the world who could control this god-vanquishing blade was the Lord Divine Lord. After Yunjian finished speaking, the god-vanquishing blade in Yunjian's hand emitted a dazzling light. After the light faded, Huyanba suddenly regained his senses. If his eyeballs were about to fall out a moment ago, then his eyeballs were about to explode at this moment. He stared at the god-vanquishing blade in Yunjian's hand, but in the next second, he exclaimed, "The god-vanquishing blade." It was the god-slaying blade. Wasn't the god-vanquishing blade Lord Divine Lord's divine weapon? It's in your hands. Could it be? Huyanba suddenly reacted. Just now, Ce had reached out with her hand at a speed that he couldn't even see with his naked eyes. She had grabbed his son's eyeball and burst it. Just now, Huyanba was overwhelmed by his anger and didn't have time to think about it. The god-vanquishing blade belonged to the Lord Divine Lord. If that was the case, Sir Divine Lord. You're not the Lord Divine Lord. Huyanba stared at Ce and immediately sat down on the ground. Lord Divine Lord. It was said that the Lord God was the ruler of the gods' continent. Huyanba was truly frightened. If the return of the sorcerer god was enough to frighten Huyanba, then the Divine Lord was an existence that Huyanba couldn't even imagine. For example, in Huyanba's eyes, the Divine Lord's identity was like a god in the eyes of earthlings. He was a figure that existed in fantasy. Hence, when he saw the god-vanquishing blade and Ce's strength, Huyanba was shocked. However, Yunjian didn't give Huyanba a rebuttal or a correct answer. She pointed the god-vanquishing blade at Huyanba. She didn't want to give Huyanba a chance and wanted to end him directly. When you go to hell, you'll know the answer. Yunjian's lips curled up coldly. She waved the god-vanquishing blade. Just as she was about to end Huyanba's life with one slash, suddenly, Huyanba's eyes turned. He knelt in front of Yunjian and Ce and shouted. Chapter 1566. Yun Jian had originally planned to use the god-vanquishing blade to kill Huyen Ba and make him disappear from this world completely. However, she did not expect Huyen Ba to say such words. Did he know that she and Ce had been looking for traces of the mysterious person? Did he know how to recover the memories of her and Ce when they were the sorcerer god and Sir God? This, I really know. I really know. If I'm lying, it won't be too late for you to kill me then. Huyen Ba raised 3 fingers and said firmly to Yun Jian and Ce. Whether a person was lying or not could be seen from their facial expressions. Huyen Ba's expression told Yun Jian that he was not lying about this. Speak! Ce shouted as he glanced coldly at Huyen Ba. Although Ce still had the ability he had when he was a Lord Divinity and had some memories of his time as a Lord Divinity, his memories were only fragments. Regardless of whether Huyen Ba was telling the truth or not, what if he was telling the truth? At the very least, if what Huyen Ba said was true, it would be of great help to Yun Jian and Ce. Huyen Ba looked around carefully and said to Yun Jian and Ce, "There are too many people here. Let's talk in the cave over there. Xuanying, Amo-san, you two go to Adam first." When Ce heard this, he did not turn around. Instead, he turned his handsome face sideways and said softly to Xuanying and Amo Sr., "Yes, young master." Xuanying and Amo-san responded. Then, the two of them swaggered toward where Adam and the other sorcerer tribe members were. Rather than swaggering, it was better to say that Xuanying put his arm around Amo-san's shoulder and walked over. "You little rascal, how was your time in the Yulong mainland? Was it fun?" As soon as they arrived, Xuanying put his arm around Adam's shoulder. He first knocked Adam's head with his hand, then said to Adam with a grin. The scar on Xuanying's neck was horrifying. If this scar was removed, he would undoubtedly be the most handsome among the 4 leaders of An Hun. Of course, even with this terrifying scar, Xuanying's handsome appearance still attracted the attention of a large group of witch tribe girls around him. At this moment, Yun Jian and Ce had already followed Huyen Ba into an empty cave. "I'll tell you everything I know as long as you let go of my Huyen clan." Huyen Ba wasn't a fool. He stated his conditions as soon as he entered the cave. "Do you think you still have the right to negotiate with us?" Yun Jian held the god-slaying blade in her hand. She swung the butterfly blade-like god-slaying blade with ease. That way, it would be as if she could accidentally stab the god-slaying blade into Huyen Ba's heart and turn him into ashes. Huyen Ba swallowed his saliva. For the first time, he was speechless in front of a teenage girl. Moreover, this teenage girl was the sorcerer god who had once dominated the Yulong mainland. "I'll tell you. But, you have to let go of my Huyen clan after I tell you." Huyen Ba was afraid that Yun Jian and Ce would wait impatiently. So, he paused for a moment after he said this. Then, he continued to speak. "That was half a year ago. At that time, I went to the central mainland as the patriarch of the number 1 family of the Yulong mainland. Then, I accidentally heard a conversation between 2 mysterious people. Those 2 mysterious people were wearing black robes. I listened carefully because they mentioned the Lord Divine Lord and the Sorcerer God. Chapter 1567. Lord Divine Monarch, that's a supreme existence. When I was listening to the 2 mysterious men, I didn't believe them at all. Because what kind of existence is the Lord Divine Lord? How could he use up all his spiritual power and even go against the way of heaven to save the Sorcerer God of Yulong continent for the Sorcerer God? That's impossible. But then I thought about it. 1,000 years ago, when the Lord God of Yulong continent came to Yulong continent, he asked if the Sorcerer God was there. Then, the Lord God said that the Sorcerer God wouldn't come. The Lord God asked his protector to kill the Lord God. So I listened carefully at that time. Huyen Ba wanted to continue his nonsense, but Yun Jian didn't let him have his way. Yun Jian took a big step forward and swung the butterfly knife made from God-vanquishing blade lightly, placing it on Hu Yanba's neck and yelling at him, "What are you doing? Get to the point. I'll kill you if you keep talking nonsense." Hu Yanba's eyes turned. He was so scared that his whole body trembled. He quickly begged for mercy, Don't. I'm just laying the foundation. The main point is at the end, speak." The God-vanquishing blade in Yun Jian's hand pressed coldly against Hu Yanba's neck, inching closer. This time, Hu Yanba didn't dare to talk nonsense. He quickly continued. The two mysterious men said that the Lord God and the Sorcerer God were still alive. They said that they were in a place called Earth. They even sent people to assassinate them. When I heard about this, I also sent people to look for a place called Earth. But they couldn't find that place, so I gave up. I didn't believe that the Sorcerer God was still alive, until just now. Don't, I'll say it. I'll get to the point. Don't. Hu Yanba started to talk nonsense again. He seemed to be stalling for time. However, just as Hu Yanba was about to talk nonsense, Yun Jian moved the God-vanquishing blade closer to his neck. Hu Yanba no longer dared to talk nonsense. He quickly got down to business. I met those two mysterious people in the central continent. If you want to find them, you'll have to go to the central continent. However, I can't guarantee that they're from the central continent. Also, the two mysterious people mentioned something else. That is, if the Divine Lord and the Sorcerer God return and want to recover their strength and memories, they have to get the sandalwood box. They have to inject powerful spiritual energy into the sandalwood box in order to open it. Legend has it that this sandalwood box is a divine artifact. With it, one can become the ruler of all the continents. Even on the God's continent, no one is a match for it. After Hu Yanba finished talking about the main point, he began to sigh with emotion. As soon as he finished speaking, Yun Jian interrupted him, "Have you finished what you wanted to say?" "Finished." You. Just as Hu Yanba came back to his senses, he felt a white light flash in front of him. Yun Jian's god-slaying blade had already slit his throat. "You're trustworthy." At the moment when he fell, Hu Yanba shouted with all his might. Hu Yanba closed his eyes. The last thing he heard in his life was Yun Jian's cold voice. "I never promised to let the Huyan family go. The Huyan family has had enough of the throne of Yulong mainland. It's time to return it to its rightful owner." Hu Yanba was dead. The Huyan family was destroyed. After thousands of years, the Sorcerer tribe had regained the throne of Yulong mainland's #1 family. 1,000 years ago, before the Sorcerer God fell, he promised that he would return after 1,000 years. Some people said that the Sorcerer tribe would prosper with the Sorcerer God around. Now, the Sorcerer God had returned as promised and led the Sorcerer tribe to regain the throne of Yulong mainland's #1 family. Chapter 1568. Witch Tribe Palace. The destruction of the Huyan family represented the rise of the Witch Tribe. At this moment, the Witch Tribe Palace was holding an exciting banquet. Yun Jian, Ce, Adam, Shuang, Mo Sun, Lan Su, and Wu Lan did not attend the Witch Tribe's banquet. At this moment, they were sitting in a corner of the backyard of the Witch Tribe Palace. A sandalwood box was placed on the table in front of them. The sandalwood box was not like other antiques. From its appearance, it was bright and beautiful from beginning to end. It did not even give people a sense of age. This was also why Yun Jian could replace the sandalwood box with a high-end imitation. In his previous life, Lang Sha kidnapped Xiao Yunzhu and forced Yun Jian to hand over the sandalwood box. Yun Jian handed over a high-end imitation, but Lang Sha did not discover that it was an imitation. At this moment, Ce's hand was on the sandalwood box. Is what Hu Yanba said really feasible? Are we really going to open the sandalwood box now? As the witch tribe leader, Wulan was still very worried about Yunjian and Ci's actions of opening the sandalwood box. It was strange that the sandalwood box had never been opened since it appeared. To open the sandalwood box, one would need powerful spiritual power. Now, the only person who could do this was Ce. Open. Yunjian narrowed her eyes and said. Hearing this, Ce injected her powerful spiritual power into the sandalwood box. The sandalwood box on the table shook violently. Then, under everyone's eyes, it opened. Suddenly, a strong ray of light refracted. The moment the light shone, it seemed to be able to destroy the heavens and the earth. In the next second, Ce and Yunjian fainted under the strong light. Even Mo Sun, Shuang, and Adam next to them were the same. The memories from 1,000 years ago came flooding back like a tidal wave. You guys. After the light faded, Lan Su saw that Yunjian and the others had fainted. Stop shouting, I think they are trying to retrieve their memories. Wulan pressed down on Lan Su's hand that was about to shake Adam. She stopped Lan Su. Time, like a twisted tunnel, opened the dusty memories. 1,000 years ago, in the residence of the sorcerer god in the sorcerer tribe. Lan Su helped the sorcerer god put on a black coat and stood beside a bronze mirror as he asked the sorcerer god, Lord Sorcerer God, the ceremony is about to begin. Aren't you going? No. The sorcerer god stood up and walked out. Halfway through, the sorcerer goddess stopped in her tracks. She turned sideways, her slender figure wrapped in a black robe. She moved her red lips slightly and said to Lan Su, I'm going out for a walk. You don't have to come with me. Yes. Lan Su nodded. Only then did the sorcerer god leave. There was a quiet forest in Yulong mainland. There was a cave in the forest. There was a bed and daily necessities in the cave. The sorcerer god didn't like those complicated things. When she was bored, she only liked to walk around in this quiet cave. She was the respected sorcerer god of the sorcerer tribe. Everyone envied her, but no one knew that she was tired of this identity. Her life belonged to the sorcerer tribe. Protecting the sorcerer tribe was her mission. She didn't even have the chance to choose her own love and survive. The sorcerer god had just walked into the cave when she turned around when a familiar man's aura hit her. A slender hand grabbed her slender wrist. Lord Divine Lord. Seeing the man in front of her, the sorcerer god was stunned and was about to bow. Why didn't you come to the ceremony? You don't want to see me? He grabbed her hand and questioned her. Just now, when the king of Yulong mainland said that she wouldn't appear at the ceremony, he couldn't help but let his protector kill the king. We don't belong to the same world. Don't come looking for me again. The sorcerer god lowered her head slightly. She was about to continue speaking when he grabbed her wrist and pulled her onto the bed. Chapter 1569. As he spoke, he buried his head in her neck and nibbled on her snow-white neck. His heavy breathing hit her side. The sorcerer goddess put her hands between him and her body, but allowed him to nibble on her snow-white skin. Until the snow-white skin on her neck turned red from his nibbling, she only put her hands between their chests and did not move. He grabbed her head, but was so gentle that he could not bear to hurt her. He buried his head and kissed her red lips fiercely. This time, she reached out to push him away, but her hands were caught in one of his large palms. She could not break free. Actually, she had feelings for him too. If she did not have any feelings for him, she would not have allowed him to nibble on her neck and leave marks on her beautiful and pure skin. It was only when he released her lips and stopped moving while panting heavily that she called out softly, Lord Divine Lord. Although she was the sorcerer goddess and was called the sorcerer goddess by the world, she was so powerful that she was invincible. However, no one knew that she could kill a god with her bare hands. In the whole world, there was only one person who was more powerful than her. That person was her nemesis. That person was the Sir Divine Lord. Don't call me Sir Divine Lord. If you call me that again, I'll take you. His eyes were red. He reached out and grabbed one of her slender wrists above her head. She looked straight at him. There was no fear in her eyes. She did not call him Sir Divine Lord anymore. Because she knew that if she called him that, he would really do what he said and take her right here. As the sorcerer goddess of the sorcerer tribe, as a girl of the sorcerer tribe, she could not lose her virginity to a man before marriage. Otherwise, she could either kill the man, marry him, or commit suicide. Naturally, she could not break this rule first. Tell me, why didn't you come to the ceremony? Seeing that the girl was distracted under him, he pressed her head to make her look into his eyes and asked. He did not see her at the ceremony just now, so he was impulsive. The king of the Yulong mainland said that the sorcerer goddess would definitely not come to the ceremony. He did not show his emotions on his face, but asked his protector to kill the king of the Yulong mainland. Now, outsiders might think that the divine monarch had gone mad. We shouldn't meet again. You're the divine lord of the gods' continent, and I'm the witch god of the wizard tribe. We shouldn't. She said. She shouldn't have gone to God's continent 3 years ago, and she shouldn't have gotten to know him. They shouldn't have been together in the first place. Perhaps it was a mistake from the first time they met. Shouldn't? To me, you are the best gift given to me by the heavens. I won't allow you to say those 3 words again. He said forcefully before kissing her hard on the lips. The sorcerer god existed because of the sorcerer tribe. It could be said that she existed for the sorcerer tribe. The word love was not allowed in her life. Otherwise, it would be going against the heavens. Going against the heavens meant that she would fall and her soul would scatter. She really wanted to tell him that she was willing, but he bit all over her neck and tore off the black shirt on her shoulder. Just as he was about to rip her clothes off, she blocked his hand. Lord Divine Lord, don't, she was not weak. She reached out to stop him from violating her, but he broke through in the next second. The sorcerer goddess's strength was unmatched in the entire Yulong mainland. Even in the gods' continent, she had a shocking record of killing gods. However, in front of the Lord Divine Lord, her strength was not as good as his. When he heard her call him Lord Divine Lord in such a distant manner, he grabbed her delicate wrist and pulled it out. Where are you taking me? Her eyes moved slightly as she asked. You're tuning into the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.